Good morning and welcome to the Assiniboia Community Committee for this Friday, September 5th of 2025. My name is Councillor Evan Duncan. I will be chairing today's meeting. I'm joined by Councillors Dobson and Lukes, also joined by members of our public service. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territories, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota people, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 41st Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Can I have somebody move the minutes from the July meeting? Moved by Councillor Lukes, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Any other business that we have to take care of before getting into it? And we are dealing with our reports to start. We do have public hearings that will begin at 10:30. And just for those of you that are potentially listening online or joining us here in the gallery, we will be breaking today at 12 o'clock for 1 hour. So that'll be a 12 o'clock break, and we'll be resuming the meeting if we have to, that is, at 1 o'clock, should we not be dealt with all the hearings or reports. Let's get into it with item number 1, semi-annual report. I apologize. We have delegations here today. I'll pass it on to Ms. Cohen, who's going to introduce them.
Okay, so our first delegation is Brent Fowler to be heard with respect to report 3. I believe Brett's with us in the gallery today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Whenever you're ready, you'll have 5 minutes. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much, councillors, for allowing me to attend this morning. I'll only speak for a couple of minutes. I just thought perhaps it might make sense to give you a bit of context as to why we're requesting an extension of the time on our project along at St. John Ambulance Way or 1500 Portage Avenue, however you want to describe it. You will recall that a couple of years ago, City Council granted us approval to buy the east to west back lane that is really unused as a public lane. One of the conditions that was imposed upon us, of course, was to sign an approved agreement for sale. That took us 14 months to receive from the city. So we received council approval mid-2023, and it was actually August 30th, I believe, of 2024 when we received the sale agreement. So that was the 2024 construction season. We certainly had hoped to do the work this year. The problem is that as you go through this process, it's very sequential. And as we were working through it, we ran into an issue with an easement with Manitoba Hydro in that they were unable to describe, for the purposes of the easement, exactly where their infrastructure was located. So we were required to hire an underground surveying firm to find their infrastructure. That took us 4 months. We just received the easement from Hydro last Friday. And that's the 2025 construction season pretty much gone. The good news is we are nearing the end of the process to actually take a title. I don't think there's any chance that that will happen between now and the end of the construction season this year. So while we had hoped to do the project last year, this year, our hope is now next year. The design is done, the money's in the bank, we are ready to go. It's just the administrative process. So we are asking for the 18-month extension. We don't think it will take us that long, but we didn't think, I didn't think I would be here today asking for an extension to begin with. So I just wanted to provide you with that little bit of context. It's a project we're committed to. We're going to do it as soon as the administrative side of this is done. The title is transferred into our name, and we receive the development permit from the city. And that's really all I have to add this morning.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there any questions at all? Yes, Councillor Dobson.
I was going to ask a question for the delays, but is that it? We're done now?
I
do was the last one.
I hope so. We don't anticipate any further delays at this point in time. The unfortunate thing for St. John is the 2-year delay with everything that's happened economically with tariffs. We're going to have to go back to tender whenever we do finally have a development permit. And it's approximately a $650,000 project. It certainly is going to cost us a lot more than that. And as a charity, that's an issue.
Yeah, that's a little tough. Okay. All right. That's it. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for appearing today. I don't see any other questions. We'll deal with your matter here shortly.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, sir.
Next to be heard with respect to report 6 is Christopher Gibson, Paragon Design Build, and Evan Hansen from Affinity Architecture. They're both joining us via Zoom today. And Chris and Evan, we're just asking you to unmute your microphones and then you can proceed. You have up to 5 minutes for your presentation.
Good morning, welcome.
Good morning.
Morning, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Just let me share my screen here for my presentation. You can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
Good morning, councilors. Thank you for allowing us to participate in our plan approval meeting today. And I'm Christopher Gibson. I'm from Paragon Living. I'm the development manager. And here with me today is Evan Hansen from Affinity Architecture, who is the primary architect on our design. So a little bit about our building. It's a 7-story build with 162 residential suites. Our parking is located on the surface as well as in the underground parkade. We also included a rooftop patio as well as an NPR room on the main floor. This building will be designated under the CMHC Select program. That'll have 10% of the suites priced at 30% of the average median market rent. And also to note that our building will be 40% more energy efficient than the 2017 National Energy Code for buildings. This building also has been designed to be visible and accessible design criteria for Manitoba. So it just means that anyone can get into the main areas and public spaces as well as units for visitability. Sorry. A little bit of area context. As you might be familiar with the area, we're located within the Outlet Collection Seasons area. Our location is situated just on the northeast corner of the main intersection going into the Outlet Mall at Sterling Leon. We shared the little parcel, this parcel of land with the existing McDonald's, IHOP, and I believe it's the Good Earth Coffee Shop. Here's our site plan. You're familiar with this from previous application for the rezoning and subdivision. This has not changed much since those hearings. We did note that we will need a variance that will be presented later on this afternoon for just to establish a parking area through our building, from the parking area to our building, which is less than 10 feet. Those distances will only be 7 and 8 feet distances from that parking space. You'll also see on here that we do have lots of shrubbery that will block the lights to any windows on the main floors, and the area of our site plan has ample landscaping. It goes above the requirements of within the bylaw. Nothing has really changed since our last application. And I believe Evan can probably speak to some of the more intricate things if needed. Again, with the landscaping here, you'll note that we've added a lot of the landscaping up at the front on the roadway. The building is set back enough that we can add in some of that extra trees and shrubbery and other landscaping accessories. For the elevations, everything was done to complement the area designs for all the buildings around. You'll see that we do have some elevation changes and some material changes just to break up those the building and its length. You'll note that we do have a pass-through driveway that connects to our building off of the main entranceway to the area. This will be for cars and the access to for people going to the McDonald's and the other areas as well as our parking areas. I'll just pop back here to our site plan. So just driving in to our parking lot, and we share this the rest of the area with the commercial. And that would be it for my part in this.
Thank you,
If
Chris.
you have any questions, I'll gladly take them.
Yeah, just the one question around the presentation here. Is there more to the presentation from Evan, or is that the conclusion?
That's it. I'm here to answer any technical questions if there were any, but other than that, Chris's presentation should suffice.
Okay, questions? I see Councillor Lukes has one.
Thank you very much for the presentation. This is very exciting. So just recap the drive-through part underneath. How are you lighting that up, or what's the game plan for making it bright and light and visible and all of that? Because that like what's it going to connect to on the other side? What does that road connect to? More stuff? McDonald's, right.
Right.
So busy road, right? So what are you doing to light it up underneath?
There will, I think Evan might be able to answer more technically, but there will be lighting located underneath the walkway and the drive aisle, just because that will be the underside of the second floor. We'll be able to add some lighting into there.
Do you have to make it a certain height? Are there requirements to make it a certain height?
Sorry, Evan.
Oh, I was just going to say it's going to be sufficient for cars and small trucks, and snow clearing is going to be accommodated with Bobcat and fire department access. We've worked out with the fire department that it will access the site through a different means, another road further along the path.
Okay, and then my last question is, how many years are these apartments 30% affordable?
These ones, I believe, would be the 20 years.
So does it vary with CMHC? Are different projects different numbers of years?
Yes, I believe they do have a 10-year program. And again, these are designated and registered on our title. So these ones will be added in there on our title for that amount of time.
So these ones are 20 years?
I believe so, yes.
Wow. Okay, that's great. So I guess the question is, I guess you probably start whenever you get your final approvals here.
Correct. We're looking to begin late fall with the foundation, and so we can get this going as quickly as possible.
Right. And then I know we're not talking about the next one, but when do you think do you finish this one first before you start the next one?
No, we are about 6 month delay or from the beginning of this one.
Super.
So we're looking to strategically do all the phasing
Right.
to be able to utilize some of the staging areas efficiently.
Perfect. Super. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Chris or Evan. So just back to the whole drive-through portion of the building in the middle there. I think it's a great concept. What type of consultation was there with the landowners here around getting, say semi-trailers into the surrounding buildings for deliveries?
They have access, I'll just bring it over here. Site
I
plan,
know
they do have,
Excuse me, I know they have access. I'm asking what type of consultation was there with them?
we worked, directly with the ownership group, and we've, navigated through much of this, and they've approved on these plans, well back into the rezoning and subdivision, which they kind of led, with our design. So everything that you see here has been approved by the ownership group, and with with McDonald's as well as the other two, IHOP and the, I believe, Good Earth Coffee Shop.
All right. So essentially the road that feeds in from south to north that goes east into the lot will no longer be accessible for anything other than pickup trucks or cars.
Correct, and that was one of the stipulations with McDonald's. They needed the direct access from that roadway. So we accommodated that by having the pass through with the second floor over going over the roadway. So that was one of the consultation components that McDonald's wanted. So we accommodated that and again, all the deliveries will be made through their other access point.
So just for crystal clear clarification here, we're talking about the south northbound drive aisle to the east of the roundabout, correct?
Right, so it'll be just located just past our property line.
Okay. Right. And then Councillor Lukes posed an interesting question about the lighting. Are we talking just giant fluorescent floodlights? Or are we going to be having kind of a interesting, creative look to the lighting under there? I'm thinking, downtown in the Exchange where they have some of these drive aisles that are more attractive than others. Any thoughts, ideas?
We had come up with a design scheme showing a lot of horizontal illumination in a kind of dynamic pattern moving through there. I don't have the image open right now, but it will look special.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, just not, 2 or 4 giant fluorescent lights.
Understood.
I believe Councillor Dobson was looking to ask a question. Councillor?
Yes, one question, can't really see it. Where's the garbage pickup? Where's the garbage recycling?
Garbage and recycling is right at the top of the drive aisle here, on both corners. I don't know.
You
if
share
can
your
see my
screen,
cursor.
Chris?
Oh, I didn't know I was not sharing my screen anymore. So. There we go. So if you can see my screen, our garbage pickup will be located in these 2 islands here.
Sorry, just for clarification on Councillor Dobson's question, are those going to be the partially submerged garbage or bins on the ground level?
They will be the Mullock systems.
Okay.
For the area. Yeah.
All right, this is good news. I was in the Seasons of Tuxedo area several times this summer, and it will be hopping once we get more residential in there because it's already hopping. So looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get a nice tour and sit up on that patio before the big opening. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I don't see any other questions at this time. We'll deal with your item when we get to it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So the final delegation today will be David Hill and Freddie Morale from Streetside Developments, speaking with respect to report 7. I believe they are joining us via Zoom today.
We are. We can see you. And now we can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us in. We didn't have planned a formal presentation today. Myself and Freddie, who's the project manager for this townhome development, are here mainly to answer questions. It's a 42 unit townhome project, which is modeled on a neighboring development we recently completed on Frontier Trail and on Joe Pieper Way. They've been very successful and feature urban patios and really add a great street presence we're finding and an affordable way to get into Bison Run. So I'll leave it at that because as I said, we're mainly here to answer any questions that you have about our proposal.
Thank you very much. I know the committee appreciates when folks come here. If there's not any formal presentation, at least the opportunity to ask questions. So we do appreciate that. Are there any questions at this time? Councillor Lukes?
Yeah, okay, so this is great. I had the opportunity to tour, as maybe you know, a couple of the units in Bison Run recently that you guys put together. My only concern on this project is it's directly across from high school with 1,600 kids this year and about 800 elementary kids in the other school. And my only concern is just to really, it's just chaotic there in the mornings and at pickup time. So, yeah, that's my big concern. So I guess I'll hear about it if there's issues, but I've got your hotline, so you'll hear about it from me too.
Right. And I think the sales team is going to be aware, or at least be upfront with potential buyers about the location and what is around it. So, you know, we minimize the amount of surprises in terms of people being surprised by the activity of the school, being the proximity of the school. And I think that's a way we can mitigate any negative outcome of all the activity that the school might bring in the mornings and afternoons. So that's definitely will be on the sales team agenda, is to make it very clear what's adjacent to this project.
Sure, I'm not too concerned about the people in the apartments because probably, or in the townhouses, because they're gonna probably love being across from the school with their kids. I'm
Right.
not worried about the actual construction of it.
Oh, I see.
During the construction
I
period.
see. Yeah.
So, you know, I've got a very good hotline to you guys, so, it's, you know, cause the sidewalk, I think the sidewalk will go in after, and there's just lots of stuff happening
Absolutely.
there, so that construction times be very cognizant of morning and afternoon drop-offs, you know?
Absolutely, and we'll make sure that the production team, the site team, is aware of that. And if the issues do come up, you know where to call, and
Yeah,
we'll be on that.
yeah, no, very exciting, beautiful product that you guys are putting in there. People are loving it, right? They're getting
Right.
up, so that's a good sign. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just the one question around Councillor Luke's question about the school, more so around consultation with Pembina Trails. They're aware that this build is happening and it's been taken into consideration for their future school years and population.
I work with Pembina Trails, so.
Sorry, I didn't catch that full question.
Yeah. Have you guys had any?
Yeah,
Have you had any type of conversation with Pembina Trails just to let them know that this is done?
we can definitely add that to the checklist. Normally, we do notify neighbors when well before construction starts, and we'll definitely be notifying the school about what the activities they're going to be.
And I understand the questions around construction. Obviously, this could cause issues on the adjacent roads. I was more so just to give them a heads up that more development is happening right there, and they can expect. Though it might not be many, but more students potentially registering.
Right.
Councillor Lukes.
And I mean, I'm making as an assumption here, but there is a sidewalk. Yeah, there is the public sidewalk that goes in front of it. Okay. I was just looking at your public sidewalk behind, And I do see that there's a sidewalk in the front also, so that's great, so.
Yep.
This is great.
All right, seeing no other questions at the time, again, we appreciate you coming to answer some of our questions.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Madam Clerk.
Okay, so that's it for delegations.
Great. We'll move into our reports. Item number 1, semi-annual summary of delegated authority award of per capita land dedication and community incentive grants.
Yeah.
Any comments from our councilors?
I'll make a motion to accept the report.
Great. Before doing so, I just want to say that councilors on Assiniboia Community Committee are extremely committed to delegating out all of the grants that we can that are given to us as councilors to get out to the community. I invite the public to review this list and just see how many different organizations have benefited from that, and encourage all organizations to reach out to their local area councilors to potentially be awarded some per capita LDR or CIGs. Thank you very much, Councillor Lukes. Moving that motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, and that is carried. Moving on to item number 2, extension of time subdivision rezoning. Land located at the northeast corner of Gull Lake Road and Markham Road. Any comments from the public service on this? Nothing from me. This is reviewed by the development staff. Okay. Angie Savage is joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, councillors and colleagues. I apologize being on Zoom. I still have a bit of a cold, so.
Oh, thank you.
Did you want a little background on this one, or?
Sure, yeah, a little brief background, and we can
Sure.
take a straightforward extension.
Yeah, so on behalf of the registered owner, the lawyer has requested a 1-year extension to July 21st of 2026 to satisfy the coming into force provisions of the bylaw. It was due to expire in July, but they did apply prior to expiry, and the original development application was for subdivision and rezoning here to create 2 lots and rezone them to an RMFL so that they can construct 4-story multifamily dwellings on each of the lots. The required zoning, servicing agreement, and easement agreements have all been executed. However, we are still waiting on the payment of fees under the agreements and posting of securities, which the letter from the lawyer states that they are dealing with delays related to federal funding. So the public service has reviewed the request, and we support the approval of the extension to 2026.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Savage. Any question, public service on this? Seeing none at this time, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. This is a really good project. It's right beside a transit station. And there was some challenges with the capacity. I think that the proponent is applying to the federal funding program from an infrastructure perspective. So really hoping this comes together because there's a lot of units here.
Moved by Councillor Lukes, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? And it is carried. Thank you. We'll see that back in a year's time. Also, another extension of time on the opening and proposed closing of a portion of public lane between 1 St. John's Ambulance Way and 1500 Portage Avenue, and the dedication of a portion of the public lane as St. John's Ambulance Way. That's a mouthful. We heard from the delegation. I don't have any questions at this time. Councillor Lukes.
Okay, so it just kills me to hear that there was a 2-year delay on this. And I need to understand better what took so long in the city, like 14 months. It says here, so maybe we can have a little more explanation. I get hydro, that's a world of its own, it's not our world. But in the letter here, it indicates they could not proceed with their short form plan of subdivision till they had received the offer to purchase from the city for the public lane. So that doesn't sound too complicated, but what do you have to say about that?
I don't know the background on this, like with respect to closing the lane and everything, but other than to say that things typically move one step at a time. So, you know, all of those matters related to the closing need to happen before we can circulate a subdivision, because you need to have the, title to what you're subdividing. And
Thank you. I apologize, Robert Galston joining us here today from Property Planning and Development. We also have somebody from Public Works with us now. PP&D, sorry.
Yes, good morning.
Who is this?
My name is Peter. I'm with City of Winnipeg Geomatics Department, and I'm the one who processed the extension of time application. And as far as to your question in regards to why it took 14 months, I don't have an answer for you. That's a real estate matter, and I can certainly find out and let you know what the reason for that was. And basically, nothing moves until that sales agreement has been executed, which is the reason why they've run out of time on this particular application.
Sure. Okay, so, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it now, but I would really like to have a good description of what happened. Like 14 months is a long time, but I know there's a lot of stuff going on in development world. I know there's a lot happening, but like when things go over a year, everything goes up in price. Like that's the problem. I know it's not it's not you, but if you could get us an email to the committee on why it took so long, and maybe we can prevent this in the future.
I certainly will take care of that, and I will send you that email as soon as I have it available.
Great.
Question for any of the public service members who could answer this. Is there any other foreseeable delays here?
From my point of view, there is nothing at this point that would slow this down anymore. Once the sales agreement is executed and subdivision approval has been already given, so we can just go ahead and process the application in a timely way.
And ballpark timeline so that the applicant can have an idea of what they're dealing with here.
Well, I think their extension being till December 22nd is quite generous. This could be possibly done perhaps early spring, maybe even by the end of the year.
So 3 to 6 months?
I would say so, yes, that's reasonable.
Okay, so the request was for
18 months.
18 months, okay. But the public service is indicating this could be done as early as 3 months. We'll grant with the committee's will, we'll grant the 18-month extension. And the public service is on board with getting this done here. Councillor Dobson?
Yeah, I'll make that motion. For 18 months extension.
Okay, and yeah, and this concerns me that this 2 years is just, I do a lot of development and I hear a lot from developers when there's delays about the costs and it just really is upsetting. So I'll find out further.
All right, we'll look for that email. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That is carried.
Now, I just want to add to the proponent here, if there's any other hangups, just contact any of us here. So we want this is a great project, so.
Thank you. Item number 4 is Land Dedication Reserve Fund, City of Winnipeg Parks and Open Spaces Division. This is the Goal Replacements 2025 project, Lakewood Rec, Woodhaven Community Center, and Borkvale Community Center. This seems very St. James heavy.
Yeah, and it's something that should have been done a long time ago.
Great,
But we are getting caught up in our soccer goal replacements.
good.
This will enable them to move the goals around at their leisure, and it makes it much easier to maintain the grounds.
Okay, just tell me what these are. These are the metal gold?
Yes, but they're movable.
So when you say they're movable, what does that mean? They're
That
on
means that-
wheels?
Yes, or I'm not sure if they're wheels, but they are movable so that they can maintain the grounds much simpler.
So the city moves them?
Yes.
Because they told me they couldn't do movable goalposts.
Well, as far as I know, these are them.
Okay.
I paid extra for that. It's just upgrading them.
Right.
So this looks like Counselor Dobson has committed $36,450 towards recreation programming at Lakewood Rec, Woodhaven Community Center, and Burkeville.
Burkeville.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Community loves this types of things, so I think this is something that you're willing to move here, Counselor Dobson?
Yes,
Move by
I'd like to move this forward. Thank you.
Counselor Dobson moves. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Item number 5, Land Dedication Reserve Fund, St. James Village Business Improvement Zone.
Yes, that is in St. James as well, and that is some new signage for the St. James Biz. They've done a lot for St. James, and they've got a new sign coming up. They are actually beautiful signs. They're metal, and they will last a long time. And I've decided to help them out because it will beautify St. James.
Great. Counselor Dobson and I have had several conversations about streetscaping and beautification of the zones. Obviously, having the biz zone in St. James is a really important part of ensuring that businesses are successful and have support from the city. And this is a commitment from Counselor Dobson of $20,000 towards that. Thank you very much, Counselor Dobson. You move that?
Yes,
Can I just confirm for the committee, so the recommendation is to deny the application just because it does not meet criteria 1 and 3. Counselor Dobson, is your intent to ask that the criteria 1 and 3 be waived?
be waived, yes,
And it's funding in the amount of 20,000?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So as directed by the clerk, Counselor Dobson moves. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And it's carried. Thank you very much. Plan approval for 445 Sterling Line Parkway also has a variance attached to it. I've been advised by the clerk that we can deal with these matters after. It would be in our best interest to deal with them after the hearing, where it appears at item number 8. We will shuffle that down the agenda, so we'll move past it on to item number 7, which is the plan approval for Frontier Trail. We had a delegation here. Does anybody have questions from the public service? Do we want a brief summary?
Oh, I know this project very well.
Okay. Okay then, appreciate you being here ready, willing and able. Mr. Golson, we're going to move on it. Moved by Counselor Lukes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. And with that, we've reached 10:15 in the AM. Unfortunately, we'll have to pause for 15 minutes here to start our public hearings, which are scheduled for 10:30 AM and not a second before. So we'll adjourn for the moment for 15 minutes and we'll rejoin you from the North Committee room. Welcome back to the Assiniboia Community Committee, North Committee room for this Friday, September 5th of 2025. I'm joined by Councilors Dobson and Lukes. My name is Councilor Evan Duncan, Chair for the Assiniboia Community Committee for the next little bit here. We are going to move into our public hearings. We do have a lengthy agenda this morning, items 1 through 8. We are going to be breaking at noon for 1 hour. That's not to say that we can't get through all of these, but realistically, we probably will be breaking. So to give those of you a heads up who may have to do parking or take care of other business that you may have on your agenda today. Let's move into item number 1. I will turn it over to our senior committee clerk, Leah Cohen.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is a rezoning at 198 Woodbridge Road under file DAZ 215 of 2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following item will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 2 is a variance at 198 Woodbridge Road under file DAB 160539 of 2025D Please note communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. So if you'd like a brief overview of the application from the planner.
Please.
Thank you. Yes, the subject property is located on the west side of Woodbridge Road, immediately to the south of a public lane behind Portage Avenue. It's in the Birchwood neighborhood of the St. James Ward. The site's approximately 5,700 square feet in area, and a one-story place of worship building is currently located on the property. The building was built more than 50 years ago, and currently it is vacant. The subject property is in the Established Neighborhoods Mature Communities Policy Area under Complete Communities, and it is zoned R1L Residential Single Family Large. The applicant proposes to rezone the site to the C1 Commercial Neighborhood Zoning District to accommodate a new office use inside the existing building on the site. The parking area will be located at the rear of the building, as it is currently, and accessed by vehicles from the public lane on the north side of the site. Three parking stalls will be provided, including one accessible stall. No changes to the building exterior are proposed as part of this application. The site plan submitted shows new planting in the front yard. This includes one new tree and 7 shrubs. There's an associated variance, as noted by the clerk, concerning the setback of the existing building on the south side, and a variance for the pedestrian connection to the building. The Public Service supports the proposed rezoning and variance applications because Complete Communities supports new commercial uses that are adjacent to existing commercial located in existing non-residential buildings and are sensitive to the surrounding context. Regarding context, no expansion to the building or substantial changes to the site are proposed. This is a building that has stood in the neighborhood for 50 years or more. The subject site butts established commercial uses on Portage Avenue to the north. As well, access to the proposed office use will be taken from the abutting public lane, and accessory parking areas at the back are set back 10 feet from adjacent residential properties. That's the summary. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's Robert Galston with Property and Development. Any questions at all at this point for the Public Service?
I don't have any right now. but-
Seeing none. Okay,
I don't have any as well.
okay. We can move on, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so first we'll hear from the applicant, Alden Neufeld, who's joining us in person today.
Good morning.
Morning. I'm simply here to reiterate what's already been established, but I find it best come from me personally, so.
Appreciate it.
My name is Alden Neufeld, and I'm the owner of 198 Woodbridge. Size Architecture, the firm I represent, is seeking a zoning change from the property from R1 to C1 to establish our practice there. Woodhaven is one of the most beautiful and unique neighborhoods in St. James, and we've been thrilled when the opportunity to purchase building arose. We deeply appreciate the role this building has played in the community, and we are committed to preserving that character while making our own building. Our goal is to continue using the space in a way that blends with the neighborhood and respects the building's history. Size Architecture has been in business for 8 years. 6 of them have been here in the downtown. And for the past few years, we've been searching for a new location. Interestingly enough, there was another building that was owned by this organization at 199 Parkview that we were interested in purchasing. But unfortunately, it was purchased by another developer who's now putting a 6-unit multi-tenant building on that site. Our vision for 198 Woodbridge is simple. We want to continue to operate within the existing structure, preserving the character while making minimal adjustments to support our needs, such as adding maybe some architectural features, a fence or some screening, something minimal. We have no plans for large-scale redevelopment, and we are committed to maintaining the look and feel of the property as it currently stands. You ask an architect a question, he will draw you an answer. I can't draw you an answer because it's already been drawn, it's already been built, and we're simply just going to maintain what is there. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the City of Winnipeg, and especially specifically planner Robert Galston for the ongoing support throughout this process. Thank you.
Councilor Dobson.
I have one question on the parking.
Yeah.
Currently, if I look at pictures, the parking is primarily on the west side.
That's correct.
And now you're gonna be parking on the south side?
No, it's parking in the rear. Forgive me, my ignorance of directions sometimes
Okay.
here in the city of Winnipeg. What's established is established, and we're just gonna continue using it in that manner.
All right, okay, so it won't be just the 3 spots then?
Well, I think there's 9 spots or 10 spots there now.
Yeah, I believe
Right, and I think we're just gonna be occupying, we don't need 9 spots. I think we're showing 3 spots because I think that's because of the setbacks that are in place there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Counselor Lukes.
Sure, so, I'm not an architect, but when I look at that building, it's really not the most riveting building. Like, I think of, what happened to the, Canada Post building on Kenniston at the foot of the bridge. That was a beautiful reno, right? Like, that was a Canada Post building, but it's beautiful. You're gonna spiff this up a bit?
Oh, a little bit. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I suspect.
Yes, I use that a lot when I talk to Charles with developers.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, we'll take some, I think I loosely said that we would take some, architectural, enhancements there. But like, there's no indication to build a tower. We're not doing anything like that.
Right.
We'll do some. I mean, really, right now, we want to just establish, the fact that we can rezone it, occupy it, and then we'll let the creative juices flow after.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll focus on the rezoning. Perfect.
Yeah. But I appreciate your concern aesthetically.
Yeah, I think we could do a lot nicer. Okay,
We will focus on the rezoning. I just wanted to echo the comments of Counselor Lukes. I mean, I appreciate that some folks might be attached to the history of this building in the community, but I would respectfully disagree that it has some sort of exterior appeal that needs to be maintained. So good luck to you with that as you move forward, should the committee approve the rezoning and variance. No other
Thank you.
questions at this time. Thank you for your time.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, there's no one else registered to speak to this matter, so just confirming there's no one else in the gallery wishing to speak in support of, in opposition to, or with respect to this application. Okay, are there any questions for the public service?
You have a mover?
Technically, the applicant does have the opportunity to speak in rebuttal to comments made. Alden, I'm not sure if you feel the need to rebut.
I don't think so.
Thank you. Okay.
All right,
Counselors, page 4,
you wanna do it?
I can move it.
please. Counselor Dobson,
I move that the report of Winnipeg Public Service be taken as
all
read.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, that's carried.
I move that the receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried.
I move that the recommendations of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to, is that EPC?
As long as there's no amendments. Council.
Okay, the EPC, Executive Policy Committee via the priority rezoning process. And my supporting reasons is that it's located right next to Portage Avenue, behind the back lane. It's located right beside commercial area. It's literally an ideal area to put this particular business at. So I think this would be something really good for St. James.
Thank you. Well, question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, that's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Please note the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Thank you. Woodbridge, Councilor Dobson.
Yep. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that the receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, and does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, and is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. And could I use the same supporting reasons?
The
Thank you.
supporting reasons will be documented as they were in the rezoning. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I move that the recommendations of Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is also carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Please note the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
Madam Clerk, item 3.
Before we start item 3, Counselor, would you mind if we just grab, I know there's some folks waiting outside the room.
Sure, we won't pause. We'll just wait until they come in. If there's anybody who would like to leave the room at this time, please feel free to.
Thanks.
Oh, that was a training.
This is a great location.
Oh, no, it's brilliant.
All right, looks like we,
Okay,
just one moment, so we'll wait here. We have a couple more coming into North Committee Room here for those of you watching online. Thank you.
item 3 is a rezoning at 363 St. Charles Street under file DAZ 202 of 2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following items will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 4 is a conditional use at 363 St. Charles Street under file DCU 145794 of 2025D. Item 5 is a variance at 363 St. Charles Street under file DAB 115842 of 2025D. Please note, additional communications were received in support of and in opposition to the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no new information is permitted. Speakers will be permitted 5 minutes for their presentation. All participants in the Zoom meeting have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. If you are watching the meeting on YouTube, please mute the YouTube audio now. And if the committee would like a brief overview from the planner.
Please.
Thank you. The subject property is located at the northeast corner of St. Charles Street and Augier Avenue. It is in the Glendale neighborhood of the Charleswood Tuxedo Westwood ward. The site has a total area of approximately 6,700 square feet. Currently contains a 2-story single-family dwelling constructed in 1900. The property is located in the Established Neighborhoods Recent Communities Policy Area under Complete Communities and is zoned R1L Residential Single Family Large. The applicant proposes to rezone the subject site from the R1L district to the R2 Residential 2-Family District. This is to allow the applicant to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a 3-story multifamily building with a total of 8 dwelling units. Plans submitted show the proposed 3-story building will have a maximum height of 39.5 feet. A total of 4 parking stalls are provided on the subject site, including 1 accessible parking stall. These parking stalls will be accessed from Augier Avenue on the south side of the property. As noted by the clerk, the development is also the subject of a conditional use application concerning the establishment of a multifamily use on an R2 lot. So in the R2 zone, multifamily uses are conditional, so they are applying for a conditional use as well as rezoning to R2. The development is also the subject of an associated variance application concerning the front yard setback, the building height, and the number of parking stalls. The Urban Planning Division, the Public Service rather, recommends approval of the rezoning, given that the R2 district provides for an increase in density in line with policies in complete communities. The property is located at the corner of 2 collector streets and is served by currently served by feeder transit as well as on-demand transit service. And should the proposal be scaled back to 6 dwelling units, as is recommended by the Public Service, it would add to the mix of housing types in the neighborhood at a scale that is more in line with the surrounding neighborhood. Regarding the conditional use, as noted, the Public Service recommends approval with a condition that the multifamily be limited to a maximum of 6 dwelling units. The applicant's proposing 8. Regarding the variance application, the Public Service recommends approval of the variances for the front yard setback and the number of parking stalls, but we do not recommend approval of the height of 39.5 feet, and instead expect that this would meet the height requirement of 35 feet. That's my summary, and happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
I don't have any right
Okay.
now.
A little bit more detail on the ask of 8 and the Public Service recommendation of 6.
Yeah, so we've the reports indicate we've had a good amount of good discussion with the applicant over the months leading up to today, and based on our review of complete community policies, something that is more in line with the residential multifamily small zoning is more appropriate for a site like this. It is at the intersection of 2 collector streets, but is more than 800 meters from the rapid transit, high frequency transit on Portage Avenue that terminates at Unicity Shopping Center. So based on that, it's in some ways it's a reduction of only 2 units, but it is to make this project more in line with our policies and what would be an appropriate scale and density at this location.
And then regarding the height, the 4-foot difference between 39 and 35, what does that limit or prevent, I suppose?
Well, yeah, assuming that the recommendation to bring this down to 6 units is concurred in, there would be, in our view, it would be an easy design change to bring the building down if there's 2 fewer units, and with the expectation that it's 35 feet or less. I know the recent zoning bylaw changes that were approved early in the summer approve up to 39 feet for buildings within 800 meters of high frequency transit. This is outside of 800 meters, and so not that doesn't apply in this case anyway, but that's just as a comparison.
So if this was not a multifamily and single family, what would they be entitled to build up to in height?
The height allowed in the existing single family zoning is 35 feet.
The Public Service recommendation is in line with that.
Yes, that's correct.
Seeing no other questions from my councillor colleagues, we'll move on.
So first we'll hear from the applicant, Vasily Matheos, to be heard in support of the application. You have up to 5 minutes for your presentation.
Can I just plug in the USB in?
Yeah, you can plug it right into the computer.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not, sorry.
This doesn't count for the 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, time's ticking. As we get things sorted out there,
Sorry.
I didn't take note of a lot of these being combined, so as the clerk had mentioned, item 3, 4, 5 are all one item, and 6 and 7 are also one item, so the potential for us to get through here is greater than I anticipated. Floor is all yours.
Thank you, everybody. It's an honor to be here. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Vasily Matheos. I'm the principal architect of Amphora Architecture here in Winnipeg. I normally don't add a biographical touch to presentations like this at a community committee, but I feel that it's a little bit relevant today. I'm personally connected to this neighborhood going back to being a student at St. Charles Academy, as it was known back in the day. Spent a great deal of my childhood playing right across the street from where this house is located. Went on, that was the start of my academic journey, which eventually led to me, studying architecture and going off to Harvard and becoming an architect. And then after working in New York City on some really wonderful projects, came back to Winnipeg, established a practice, became an architect here, invested in this community. I should mention that my parents ran a restaurant right around the corner called Steve and Nicky's or Dairy King back in the day. Probably our families fed just about everybody whose houses are represented on this map. And so in 2007, I was fortunate enough to purchase this property here with the dream of one day being able to develop this into something meaningful. And this represents the beginning of my venture from the practice of architecture into architect developer. So I thought that was worthwhile. So now just to talk about the context of this community here. It's a very quirky corner and it's always been interesting to me. We've got the Downs Village Mobile Home Community off to the left of the page here to the west. Perimeter Highway, there's a school, there's previously a convent, which is now St. Charles Retreat Center. There is St. Charles Parish. The street has more multifamily development and oddities than it does single family. If you look at OGA and then Glendale Country Club off to the east. This is anything but a standard block, and this is anything but an infill project mid-block that's going to disrupt the rhythm of the neighborhood. We're going for an R2 zoning change, and the intent is to build 8 units, which in my best opinion and in the opinion of my very talented staff at Amphora, we feel that this is a very beautiful and sensitive design and it will fit into the neighborhood. Now, before we get into the design, I just wanted to walk you through some of the community consultation that we did. We had sent out hand-delivered letters to the addresses here off to the left. 15 households in total that we felt were close enough to be directly impacted, as well as dialogue with St. Charles Catholic School, St. Charles Catholic Parish, and the St. Charles Retreat Center. And of course, speaking with the district planner, Rob has been super helpful, and Councillor Duncan, really appreciated all your feedback on this. Spent an afternoon with Sister Lillian at the retreat center, interacted with Scott Reese, who's now the vice chair of the board of St. Charles Catholic School, heard their thoughts and concerns, and as well as the 3 neighbors who came to the community consultation meeting that we hosted. The one concern that really that we heard of was just a question around traffic. And so, this is a busy, congested corner, during drop off and pickup. And so I did what any architect would do. I called our transportation engineer, municipal engineers to actually study it and give us an objective view. We found that the vehicular traffic that would be generated by this development over and above what's already there is, you have the report in front of you, I don't, it's about 27 annual average vehicle trips per day. So it's just over, on average, 1 extra car driving by this location per hour. Further to that, St. Charles School let me know that they've really taken a proactive approach to dealing with their drop off and pick up efficiency, and that they've redesigned the traffic around the St. Charles Catholic Parish. So it's one way they've invested in signage and fencing around there. And they've even introduced a curb cut in front of the school, which I understand has greatly mitigated any sort of traffic congestion that might happen in those short little 20-minute periods during the day. And I noticed, same as when I was a grade 1 student in 1986, there's still patrols there, adults who help the children cross the street. May I request
Councilor
additional
Lukes, all in favor? Aye, opposed, and that's carried.
Thank you. Moving on to the site plan, just very briefly, I know you have this information in front of you. We've actually set the building back further than what the existing house is. The current house on the property there is 11.75 feet from the west property line. We're actually pushing it back to 20. We still require a variance because we're still, closer than the prescriptive bylaw allows. We've tucked our parking thoughtfully to the back so that vehicles are entering and exiting closer towards the public lane, as you'll see. And what this also does is it also provides a spot for the garbage and recycling to be out of sight of the neighborhood where it's just tightly enclosed there in the back. The building's actually split in two, and the idea here is to just dematerialize it. So nobody who drives by this building is going to think, hey, that's a multifamily building with X amount of units. This project was designed to look and feel like a large house, and it has a front entry. It has bicycle storage in the main enclosed heated corridor. And it's split level. So it's broken up in the horizontal plane. It's broken up in the vertical plane. The roof line is broken up, and I actually disagree with zoning on how they calculated the building height. We can get into that a little bit more later. But what the point of this is just showing that no one, even somebody who's designing this project, will intuitively know exactly where one unit starts and where the other ends. And so that was the point of this, just to obscure the fact that it is a multifamily in sensitivity to the neighborhood that's there. Now, here's a perspective view looking from the playground where I used to play across Ogier. It's to what is effectively the front of the building. We've tried to introduce, again, different materials, colors, dimensions to deconstruct the idea of this thing being a box. So if you look at the very peak of this building, that's the offending, 39.5 foot summit. If this was actually treated as a hip roof, so if I were to actually, or if we were to actually extend the slope of the right roof to meet the tip of that, we could actually calculate the height of this based on the average of those slopes, which actually takes us to about 33 feet. Furthermore, this the middle of the building here, where there's a patio for one of the suites, is actually only at 28 feet. So if we could build a box that's 35 feet high, that would cast far more shadow than this prism here that just happens to have, so I'll just show you here at the summit, that has a top of roof dimension of 139 feet and 4 inches. And I mean, if we really have to, we can try to bring that geometry down, but it seems like that geometry request is also tied to the lower unit count that's being put forth by the planners. In any case, just to take you around the building a little bit more, we've introduced balconies, we've introduced a front courtyard on St. Charles. It's far more interesting than what is there. And we also have integrated walkways there. So this is on the private property. I don't know if you can, you can actually see my mouse here. So the walking from the parking lot to the front door there is on property. One super important note here is that St. Charles Parish is not only super supportive of this to see new life being breathed into this neighborhood, they entered into a memorandum of understanding with us to provide us 4 additional parking stalls off-site. So this project with that ancillary parking provides 1 stall suite. Now, keep in mind, we have a mix of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom suites. So again, dropping this project arbitrarily down from an 8-unit building to a 6-unit building would effectively just wipe out 2 1-bedroom apartments, which again would be, a fraction of a car ride per hour, and it would really make no noticeable change in terms of the volume of the building, because we could still build 6 units within this volume. So in conclusion, I want to thank everybody for hearing me out. Thank you for the additional time. We've done everything we could in terms of community engagement, reached out to everybody. I've made myself open in the form of a letter and email correspondence with the residents. If anybody wanted to continue the discussion with me, they could. I haven't heard anything since, the day after our public hearing or our public consultation in November. Thank you very much, everybody, and look forward to continuing to discuss this.
Well, thank you very much. Questions at all? What was some of the feedback that the community gave, positive and perhaps negative?
There were two items. One of them that, the first one was your parents must be very proud of you. I remember eating at your parents' place. The other one was, what's this going to do to traffic? It's hard to find parking on the street. Certainly, people will be parking on the street. And so that's when we spoke about the extra overflow parking at the church that we've arranged. And we have a deal that could theoretically go into perpetuity, and we'd like that to continue. Another comment came up from the next door neighbor that the house will cast shadow on their property. And again, as I iterated, I could build I haven't iterated it yet. I could build a single family house that will cast the exact same amount of shadow. And in fact, I think I could go to 25 feet of the east property line. So without, having to prove that that's an issue. So I felt that was, we tried to explain that. And of course, it's always disappointing sometimes when new development comes in, but this is just, part of making the community stronger and more diverse and interesting. I think one key note as well is that we're intending to provide market rate housing here. So, whether that speaks to the quality of residence or not, it may resonate with some that, the idea here is to, this is not, it's not a subsidized building. It's a special building, as I said, just to kick off this venture into development. And one more note too on that front. Again, the difference between 8 suites and 6 suites is almost imperceptible visually, and in terms of servicing and in terms of traffic. It's massively significant in terms of the feasibility of the project, just because this is such a design-centric special job.
Interesting that you pointed out the other infill opportunities that have gone ahead and the existing multifamily, which I'm not going to attempt. I can click in here and try to find the year that these were built on. Augier, I don't have a year here, but interesting. This would not be new multifamily to the area.
Correct. There, townhouses along Augier, as well as bungalow condominiums south of Augier. The Downs is sort of a multifamily.
Of course, yeah. To your point about height and shadow, can you remind us again, what is the absolute peak height?
I believe we're at 39.5 feet, 39 foot 4 inches. I can consult that. Do you need it down to the inch?
No, I think you could probably answer my follow-up to that. If you were to build a single family home, and perhaps our planner can chime in, at 35 feet, would that 35 feet be the peak, or would it be the cross section in the roof?
Depends on how I shape the roof. If my roof is triangular, I'll take the average of the slope. So in theory, I could build a single family house with a peak that's at or around this same elevation, the different shaped roof. So we're getting into the semantics of how building height is calculated in the bylaw. It's I feel like it's a glitch in the English language as to, there are assumptions made as to, because they've taken a shanty roof, right? So shanty roof on its own will be a little bit more offensive than one that's broken up. And there is not a sentence in the bylaw that specifically addresses this type of geometry. So,
right. I know at Property and Development, we deal with this all the time, is that folks want to bring the peak of the roof. For those of you who might not understand, a roof, the peak is not the 35-foot point. It's the middle
Midpoint of the.
midpoint, and Councillor Dobson has had to deal with this in St. James with lots of 25-foot lots. But yeah, I think it's important for those that don't know that a single family home is not actually 35 feet in maximum height to the peak. It is higher than that. So thank you for outlining that. And again, what type of clientele are you looking to attract here?
Anybody and everyone is welcome. As we said, we have a 2-bedroom design and a 1-bedroom design. So it could be single professionals, it could be a young married couple, it could be elderly. Oh, I should mention that our main floor unit that faces St. Charles is at grade, so the building is somewhat split level. That main level unit on St. Charles is designed as an accessible suite at grade with no steps leading up to that door. So we have an accessibility component here, which I should have referenced before. So,
and then one of the suites is also partially submerged.
Correct. What's interesting about these suites is that we have, again, a difference between the west side and the east side to break up the geometry of the building. And so, oh, I'm still sharing screen. Great. I thought I was on my own here. We do have a submerged suite. So the units here, the pink and the blue on the right-hand side, you actually walk in and there's a family room, kitchen, and then down the stairs you go to the bedrooms, which are similar to a basement, but it is up. If you count the amount of risers here, I don't have it memorized. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I suppose I could just actually go to my section where they're written. So that suite is 4'8" off of grade, so you come up, so it's actually fairly be like a very large basement. And then the windows, we could introduce some wells there, but the windows are actually quite generous. As you can see, this view here actually faces Glendale Country Club. So these bottom windows here actually bedroom windows for these 2 suites on the east side.
Well, now that I'm looking at that picture, your egress points for the lower level, where's it going to be? Is it going to be on the north side? Because I'm looking at the south and the
you're looking
east side.
you're looking at the south west, and unfortunately my slideshow actually doesn't contain the full proposal that you have in front of you, but that's obviously something that we would have to incorporate as part of our building code review and our building permit process. So
Point.
So
One of those windows.
we would go directly out from the back as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll move along. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you so
for
much.
answering the questions. Madam Clerk.
Okay, so we have no one else registered to speak in support, just confirming that there's no one else in the gallery looking to speak in support of this application. Okay, we'll move on to opposition. So first to be heard is William Goodman, speaking in opposition to the application.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, you can join us here.
Chair, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, I'm not a professional, not like somebody that lives up, but resident on OJ Avenue. My wife and I both have serious concerns with the lack of parking. That's the main issue. All you have to do is be at that intersection 8 o'clock in the morning, and cars are jammed on St. Charles, OJ, Gagnon for at least 2 blocks. And it's opposite a Catholic school, kindergarten to grade 8, with an adjacent daycare center, which also has multiple children. And the main concern we have is the lack of parking. That they're going to end up on the street parked, and there's just no room for it at all. And it's just excessive traffic congestion, and you have the traffic going in and out of Glendale Golf and Country Club, which during the summer months and spring and fall is there's a lot of cars. The previous speaker mentioned that 0.6 of an hour additional traffic from this unit. It's not over 24 hours. That traffic is going to be between 8 and 6 at night for the majority of time. And if there's cars parked on the street, it's just super congestion. The on-street parking by tenants is bound to happen. It's human nature. Should be no more, we feel should be no more than a fourplex. Have no trouble with a fourplex with adequate parking for the tenants. The height of it is also a concern. The majority of homes on St. Charles Street or in that area are all single level, a few 2 stories, but very few. This will stick out like a sore thumb. That's basically our big concern. The traffic congestion with the number of children that are around there on a daily basis and the height of the building.
And the height of the building.
There's a house across the street, which is, I would call it a historical house, which is as high as the one they're talking of tearing down. But it's been there for over 100 years, so you don't use that as a standard, I don't think. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I hear you on the parking. I'm not sure that the traffic piece I agree with you necessarily on. I'm not sure that this is going to create a substantial amount of traffic. I do have family that attends that school at St. Charles, and it is wildly busy there.
Yes.
I don't know how we address that separate from this whole issue, but it's definitely something that I'll take note of.
Well, yeah, I think you have to address it from that the developer provide adequate parking on site for their vehicles.
And what do you have to say to the developer's point that they made around acquiring 4 spots from St. Charles?
I have a hard time seeing the people regularly using those spots. Middle of November, wind's blowing and it's minus 27. They're going to park a vehicle 2 blocks from where they reside and walk to their, I have a hard time with that.
Okay, so and just to clarify that, I'm not here to argue with you on whether or not they would use them or not, but they have entered into an agreement to have 4 spots available.
Yeah, I know where those spots would be though.
Okay.
And they are not close.
Okay.
I wouldn't walk from those spots to my dwelling at 30 below 0 with a wind blowing.
Right.
Or pouring rain. I would park on the street in front of the building and enter my building. So.
Okay, and then height of surrounding buildings. I know you mentioned the, historic looking. I don't know that it has a designation, but it's definitely historic in nature. The residential home there on the corner.
It is actually a 4-generation home living in it.
Yeah.
Really?
It has a significant height as well, but then also the school itself, similar in height. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's removed from other residential dwellings. Okay. It's on its standalone properties.
Okay. All right. So your concern would be just essentially people constantly parking on OJ.
OJ or St. Charles or Gagnon.
Okay. Would you be opposed to any future parking restrictions?
Pardon me?
Would you be opposed to any future parking restrictions?
I certainly wouldn't.
Okay.
I don't know how you then cope with the people that are dropping kids off if there's no parking allowed, because they're there starting at 2:30 in the afternoon to get spots to pick up children that get out of school at 3:30.
That's an interesting point you raise, and I'll bring that up with Public Works because there's actually no stopping in front of public schools during certain hours within the city of Winnipeg. I believe it's practiced right across the board, so I'm not sure if this is something that potentially wasn't identified with private schools, but I can definitely follow up on that. That's a good point that you raised.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no other questions, I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next registered to speak in opposition is Barbara Grain, joining us in person. Barbara here.
My husband's phone for both of us.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
thank you very much.
So next to speak is Kelly Ryback in opposition to the application.
Good morning.
Hey, just put in my PowerPoint. I always need your assistance on how to share the screen. Green button. There we go. Okay, thank you very much, Leah. We're good now? Am I up there? Yep, we're good.
We're on Zoom.
Okay.
Maybe minimize that. And then go back to Zoom. And click on the Zoom now.
That's what I did. Go ahead.
There we go. Okay, so now try this green button again.
Oh,
Back to Zoom.
it's not time.
Button there. And then you can select your presentation.
There we go.
Yeah, and then hit share.
Got it.
Awesome.
Always helpful. I'm Kelly Ryback. I live in St. James Assiniboia in the Westwood area, just on the opposite side of the golf course, not too far away. And let me just do this. This is the site. That's the 100-year-old house. That's on the southeast corner of Auger and St. Charles. Assessed value of $243,000. From the developer, upper left, that's the site plan. Lower right is the profile, which he had shown. My one concern is in the report is identified as a 3-story building. This is in fact a 4.5-story building. These are the bus routes. The route itself is a feeder that originates from the Unicity Hub and goes through Westwood. Originally, in the original transit master plan, this was not to be there, and I led the advocacy to have it reinstated. That service is 5:24 a.m. to 7:29 p.m., no Saturday, no Sunday. And there's the on request, except does not provide service during the commute hours where there's high demand for it. So right now, a bus is about every 37 minutes during the daytime, but no on request for the morning and the afternoon commutes. Okay, what I've highlighted in red, that's the aerial view of the intersection. That intersection was not discussed in the report or so far today, is a 4-way stop. So you cannot park 10 meters on either side of those streets with the 4-way stop. There's no parking at all on St. Charles Street south of that. No parking on one side of the street on the other 3 sections. And those dots, those are the driveways of the residences. So it's extremely limited parking in that neighborhood. The 4 in the with the church, those are over 90 meters away. So when the developer talks about market rate, I understand market rate on something like this is $2,000 a month plus. As the previous delegate did say, I expect residents who only have that parish parking are going to use the street as much as possible, especially if they're dropping people off, groceries, shopping, etc. But I suspect they're going to use street parking as much as possible. And there's other challenges with the parish parking. But there's very limited street parking available, and with the demands from the school drop off, and makes it even more troublesome. This is the view from the property to the St. Charles Catholic schoolyard. You know, it's just a two-way street, limited boulevard, playground right there, classrooms and hallways right there visible, where the kids congregate. So you have balconies now overlooking immediately at the schoolyard. But just so it is, and there's already concern about driving that's out of the to the Glendale Golf Course. The developer provided this view to the public service of their neighborhood perspective. Just what I want to note here very quickly. This is the back lane. That looks like a really nice back lane. Here's the actual back lane. There's a little bit of asphalt in the first couple of houses. Then it turns to grass, which is maintained by the residences. Go further in, those branches are lower than 5 feet off the ground, and it ends in a barrier. It is not serviced by the city of Winnipeg, and that's why they're not using it, can't use it in their plan. The current building, all access is off Auger. There's no mention of the back lane. There's the Glendale Golf Course, just show there. This is related to the Housing Accelerator Fund, that if this 4.5-story complex would not be allowed under the Housing Accelerator Fund, if it was just a fourplex, because it's not within 800 meters of high frequency transit. And the 39 feet is in excess of what would be allowed even out of the Housing Accelerator Fund. So if it's not allowed for 4-story fourplex, why would you allow a 4.5-story 8-plex? And then just more information about the Housing Accelerator Fund and the driveways, et cetera. The Transcorder Walk Shed. This is, again, what's allowed under the Housing Accelerator Fund within 800 meters. St. Charles Street, that's the distance away from the Unicity hub. It is 1.1. That's probably just to Portage Avenue. Then you got to walk into Unicity to get there. But my request is, I know if this was a Housing Accelerator Fund project, which was a 2-story fourplex, we wouldn't even be here today. It would just go through the guidelines of the bylaw of the Housing Accelerator Fund. I would support less than 8 units, just based on the requirements as the public service discussed, but something I'd see more in line with the Housing Accelerator Fund. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your presentation.
Okay. Next in opposition is Jason Kinnaird. Jason here with us. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go.
Morning.
Morning. Kudos to the gentleman before me. He's well informed, and a lot of people have hit on some of the issues we already have. Like when you see some of those pictures in there, they don't show, like as I was saying, the back lane there. That's not city property. That's hydro access, and you can't use that. Also, in one of the images you showed there, there's a non-parking sign. The people that the community has asked the city on multiple occasions to stop people from parking on Auger along that between St. Charles and the entrance to the golf course. So they put up a sign, but they put it up on the wrong side of the road. You know, as you said, you can't park, like there's cars constantly parked right up to the stop sign all the time. The people from the golf course, you know, they're very entitled. They're doing 50, 60K coming out of that driveway. They don't realize that when you leave that private drive, that's a, you know, uncontrolled intersection. I've almost been hit multiple times there and had multiple arguments with people telling me that I don't know how to drive. As far as I know, when you go through an uncontrolled intersection, you stop. It's just like leaving your driveway. You don't drive out of your driveway doing 60K onto the road, right? You stop, look, if it's okay, and you proceed. That doesn't happen. We've contacted the city multiple times about seeing if they would put up something to help control that. They had a traffic guy come down there at, I think it was like 1:30 in the afternoon to see what the parking was. And it's like, well, at 1:30, there's nobody there. The gong show starts at 2:30 and it proceeds onwards. And then when they have, you know, all the different things going on at the golf course, there's a lot of drunk people coming out of there. everybody you can see is their face looking at a cell phone shining into their face as they're driving to the stop sign and nobody's paying any attention. The height of the building, they're saying, is god awful. You want to put a large amount of people in a small little tiny footprint, which is unrealistic. Like they're saying they got parking going down to the thing. On one of the pictures you can count, there's like 7, almost 7 houses before you're going to get there. And like we said, we live in Winnipeg, right? Where are they going to put the snow from their area? Where's all the bins for all these places? There's 2 bins for each place. Where are they all going to go? You know, there's none of that kind of stuff. There's overhead power lines right in that corner where they show this is what it looks like. It's so great. Well, there's a power pole right there and 2 more power poles right in front of their place going across, right? So because we got overhead power lines in that area. Did they do a study on the sewers, the impact on the sewers? Like we just had the golf course pumping water out of their pond onto the street. 2 days later, I got the Roto-Rooter at my place trying to fix backup in my house. So what's going to happen with all these people there? The gentleman says he's from the area. That's great. I've never seen him my entire life, and I've been there for over 10 years. He has no problem with renting to anybody. Previously, he had a family of 9 people living in the place. A guy had a monster truck doing donuts in the backyard there. And then after that, he turned it into a used car lot. So, I mean, if you can allow anybody, like he's saying there's like, there's multifamily dwellings. Well, if you want to have a multifamily dwelling, be in line with the ones that are down the thing. The ones with the down Auger, they're single story, right? Have a duplex or a duplex, right? If that's what you want to do, that's more in line with everything in the area. And the other thing with those ones that are down the lane, those ones are a complete nightmare. Those people can't even sell those places now. There's so much problems with the construction going on over there. And that guy basically ripped off all those people. They got hundreds of thousands of dollars because it wasn't done properly.
That is accurate.
Yeah. And it's like we had 9 people living there, and that area was a gong show. It was like the Wild West. You want to have 8 families, and not everybody's going to have a car. Most people have 2 cars. So it's not just finding a spot for 4 or 8 cars. It's finding a car for 16 cars, right? And if you have somebody else, they got a kid, they got 3 cars. So, I mean, it's so unrealistic. It's not even funny.
Thank you. Do you have any questions at all, colleagues? No. Okay. Just to point out on Auger, just so we're accurate, the multifamily down the way there by the Downs is 2-story, right?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
On the north side of Auger.
Like the 2-story.
Sorry,
The one right on the corner?
West of Gagnon.
Yeah.
Or Gagnon.
Like the one you're saying it's the Heritage Building?
No, further down the way, before the Downs Motor homes there.
So there's one, there's the Where's Heritage one, and there's another one on the opposite end.
Yeah, so
Right, on the end of that block, there's another one that's a 2-story.
yeah, you referenced the infill that was problematic on the south side of Auger.
Well, that's not an infill. That other building there's been for a long, probably same thing, long time, right?
So just across the street, there's 2-story multifamily with many units in there.
I don't know how many units it's are. So I know it's one family that lives in there.
Sorry, we must be talking about different things. The multifamily buildings, they're yellow and red-ish, brown in appearance, brick front.
Yeah, it's row housing.
Yeah.
On Auger. 2-story.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just want to identify that that's in the neighborhood as well. To your point. Okay.
But that's not on that drag or whatever, right? So I mean, even those you're trying to put way too many people in a small footprint. Like I said, there's been nothing done for like water, power, sewer, any of that kind of stuff. What's going to impact it, let alone the traffic or the parking thing, is a complete nightmare.
To your point on the water and sewer, this is circulated to a water and waste department, and it does require approval from water and waste. So it has been circulated, and I'm not an engineer, so they looked at it, but we do have.
So they have given them thumbs up for it then?
Water and Waste Department has reviewed the application. They have not outlined any concerns. There's adequate water servicing, wastewater servicing.
Okay, like I said, I just caught the golf course dump
Yeah, for
thing in the
sure.
thing, and 2 days later, got Roto-Rooter at my place, so.
Okay.
I don't know if that falls into the, the whole thing or whatever,
Yeah.
but
And you bring up a valid point with the exit of Glendale Golf Course there. We can explore more options of having some type of control there, because I hear what you're saying.
well, it's like I said, it's an ongoing thing.
No,
Multiple people
totally.
have done it, and it's a complete nightmare.
Yep.
And like adding, like you said, how many people are gonna be in that spot?
Okay.
Like it's, I know we can't maybe stop this thing from happening, but scaling it back into something being more reasonable is probably would be something the community would get behind. But having this thing, a giant thing there with X amount of people, like, who knows, like this could be the linchpin that turns the whole neighborhood into Legoland, right? And everybody's like, okay, I wanna get out of here. You know. You gotta listen to like 95, 99% of the people in the neighborhood. You can't just listen to one developer, right? So,
Okay, I hear you. Thank you.
thanks.
Yeah, we don't have anyone else registered to speak in opposition to this application. Just looking to see if there's anyone in the gallery that hasn't registered yet that wishes to speak in opposition to this. No, okay, so we'll move on. We don't have anyone registered for information. So looking to see if there's anyone in the gallery that wishes to register to speak with respect to this application. No, okay, if there are questions for the public service.
Okay. I just want to make a thing.
Are the delegations closed? Yeah.
Oh,
Closed.
it's just not, it hasn't.
Okay, sure, please, go ahead. Yeah.
It was a nightmare to try to
You
keep
should
on.
really go.
Come on back up here, yeah, just so the folks listening.
Yeah, it
online.
was an absolute nightmare to even get to this point where I could actually come up on here, like on multiple occasions, because the website wasn't even active.
Okay,
So I mean, you know,
Okay.
another thing, that's another,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on purpose or not, I'm not saying
Sure.
that, but it's like, a lot of people, like, and a lot of people can't be here today because it's working.
Yeah.
with it, right?
sorry, I'm just, we have to be equal with time, so, thank you. The applicant will have an opportunity to come back up and can address those things.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, questions for the public service at this point in time? Yes, Councilor Dobson.
Parking, do you consider that to be adequate parking to have that many parking spots that far away from transit?
Yeah, based on our recommendation, which is that it would be 6 units. And with the agreement that they have with the church, they would have 4 on site, 4 down the street. So that would be a ratio with 6 units and 8 parking stalls available. That would be a ratio of, I think, 1.3. So over 1 stall per unit. So yeah, and we looked at the transit service, and yeah, they're like, they do have some transit service. It's not great as if it were, as it would if it was closer to Portage Avenue. But based on that level of transportation alternatives that are here, we consider the parking to be adequate with that reduction to 6 units.
If we were to reduce it to 6 units, parking would, in your mind, be adequate?
That's correct. Yeah.
And remind us, what's the requirement for parking ratio?
At this location in the city, for multifamily, it would be 1.5 stalls per unit.
All right. Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, we can move on.
Okay, so the applicant is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made, but no new information is permitted. Vasily, if you wish to speak in rebuttal.
Thank you. Just want to verify that I'm permitted to provide information that is new, which addresses some of the information that's been brought up by those who spoke in opposition.
You can,
Add to the story.
clarify any information that was provided.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So there are a number of items that were brought forth. Just want to go through them efficiently.
Yep.
Starting with the back lane, actually, looking at incorporating the back lane was something that the civil service spoke to us about back when we first started chatting with them in the year 2021 in a pre-application report. And Manitoba Hydro, which actually owns the masts, has a diagonal piece of structure supporting a mast that goes right across the backyard. And there's a pole, hydro pole. So there's actually, you can't access the back of this property with that back lane because there's a piece of structure there. And in order for that structure to be removed, Hydro would need to then do work on a pole on the other side of the street at the school, which would amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars of work just to provide driveway access to the back of this house. So, we did proactively look at different ways of getting people up and down the back lane. And so the decision to put the access point on OGA was just driven by that being the only possibility given Manitoba Hydro's stance. So I just wanted to put the back lane conversation to rest. In terms of the gentleman who brought up the Housing Accelerator Fund, this is not a project that we're looking to apply for the Housing Accelerator Fund. We do have a couple on the boards at the office that we will be looking to do that for, and they're very dense near the middle of the city, and they're perfect candidates for that. And this is a whole different kind of project. So I do feel that it is unfair to adopt a completely unrelated standard to what we're talking about here. If we do look at the standards that apply here, which is the Winnipeg Zoning Bylaw 200, the bylaw prescriptively sets out that in R2, with the conditional use for multifamily, can have units calculated as such. The area of the property, which in this case is about 6,700, divided by 800 square feet per unit. We're actually not at that density at 8 units. So the number of 8 actually comes directly from the prescriptive wording in the bylaw. And so the idea of throttling this down now to 6 seems to have to do a little bit more with optics or perception of a stress on services and traffic, which I feel that we have addressed. What we haven't talked about, and it's probably, we haven't done this at this point, we could have done it preemptively, we can do it in the future, is we can always go back to St. Charles Parish in their big giant lot that has space around the front, the back, whatever. And I'm sure it wouldn't be that much of an uphill battle to have them lease us 2 additional spots if we needed to. And I know that's not something we can decide right now, but that is something that we're open to exploring. On the topic of proximity to parking, maybe some of us around the table parked in U-Lot at the University of Manitoba, and have walked, 5-10 minutes outdoors to your classes in the middle of winter, in the rain, in the snow. Quick Google Earth measurement shows that the edge of the parking lot of the church is 291 feet from the property line of this house. Using the New York rule of 1 minute per 200 feet of walking, how the Manhattan blocks are 200 feet apart. If stop light is, 3 stoplights away, that's 600 feet. That's 3 minutes of walking. This is 6 minutes walking. This is, I'm getting my math wrong, 200 feet per minute. This is it's a 1.5 minute walk from the parking lot to the house. So maybe we don't want tenants that don't want to walk a minute and a half in the rain. And actually speaking to the tenants, I do feel that that is an unfair comment going back to a tenant history. And I know specifically, what group the gentleman was referring to. That was a group that was in the house prior to me moving back to Winnipeg and taking over the management of that house. Since I've come back, we've had 2 sets of very quiet couples. And 1 small family that was there briefly during COVID, but certainly I'm sure the neighbors know that the grass has been cut. about, $100,000 to $120,000 in renovations have gone into that house. We have tried to be stewards of that property, knowing that it's an old building and that we're spending money on something that we also have the intention of demolishing. So I hope that speaks enough to how much we do care about what's going on there presently and in the future. Looks like I'm out of time.
Did you have more feedback on the comments?
Well,
If you do, I'll make a motion for another 4 minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
And here I am with not too much to go. I do just want to comment back on the transit, that there is transit service to this house, and the dynamics of what happens on what peak hours. When the on-demand transit is accessible, you can call for a ride that will show up in 20 minutes. And as we spoke, or as I presented previously, this is a very bike-friendly neighborhood, and the development does have heated bike parking, outdoor bike parking, and so it's our hope that alternate modes of transportation will be part of life on this corner. And that's everything. I really appreciate your time again. Thanks.
Okay. Seeing no other questions at this time. Appreciate your rebuttal. At this point in time, we would be open to motions.
Did you want me to take the chair?
Yeah, please. You can go ahead and take the chair there.
Okay, I'll take the chair.
Thank you very much. I'll make a motion here. Item number 3 on the rezoning. Madam Chair, I'd like to move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye. I'd like to move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye. I'd like to move, and if I get the assistance of the clerk, my intention is to allow for the applicant's request of a height up to 39 feet? Was that? Okay, apologize, then we'll stick with the rezoning. The recommendation the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development. My supporting reasons for this are that this is optimal use of the land there. That this is a rezoning for R2, which would allow for actual further densification of this. That the applicant has identified ways to minimize the shadow impact and the overall sense of height with the building through careful consideration of architectural techniques. That there was proper community consultation done, a laundry list of addresses that were mailed, and that's the primary concern around parking, although some residents here today disagree with whether or not that will be utilized, there is an option to have 8 spots available for potential 8 units. So that would be met in that requirement. And that this is also, I do think it's valid that this is nothing new to the neighborhood with multifamily housing, and that this is quite modest actually compared to the housing that is just under 300 feet away at as it was described by one of the presenters here today, the row housing on Auger Street as well. So those would be my supportive reasons.
And if I could I add something to it? That the developer is looking at getting the additional parking from the neighborhood school, which is a very positive thing.
Sure, and I'm going to support you too on this, Councillor Duncan. I think that adding these units to the neighborhood is a positive thing. I think it's we need housing in the city of Winnipeg. I have to say I've seen a lot of development, and I really appreciate the design of the building because you can see that the units are separate, yet they've got their balconies. It's a beautiful area. I actually used to live on St. Charles Street too for a short period of time. I know the area very well. And I think that, I think this is a spectacular building to go in. Yeah, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I'd like to move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
So conditional use.
Can
Okay. Did you want to pause? Sorry?
We do fast?
Yep. I'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye. I'll move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye. I'll move that in accordance with sections 254 and subsections 2473, the City of Winnipeg Charter, that the conditional use is consistent with Plan of Winnipeg, that any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining properties in the adjacent area, including the area separated from the property by street or waterway, and is compatible with the area in which the property is to be affected is situated. The supporting reasons would reflect this in the rezoning, if you see this.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
And I'd like to move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service not be concurred in. And have some assistance from the clerk here to identify, bring back to the application 8 and 39, I believe. I just want to get those numbers correct.
So Robert, the condition, the maximum dwelling units permitted shall be 8?
Yeah, 8 is applied for, so,
Oh, okay.
So the condition number 1 could
Okay.
just be struck out.
And then the second condition that it's just a 2-year.
Yeah, that stays in.
So that I'm sorry,
So
condition
it's-
number 1 be struck.
Yes, so it's concurrence with an amendment to remove condition 1, keep condition 2. Okay, and the condition must be approved.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
The public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Please note the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered. Variance?
Okay. All in favor?
Oh, sorry, sorry. You'll have to go through that.
Okay, the variance of the report. This is item number 5, that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That the receipt of public representations be concluded.
Favor?
Aye.
Carried.
In accordance with subsection 2473, the City of Winnipeg Charter, that the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg, and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the properties and adjacent area, including the area separated from the property by street or waterway, and is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the various effect of zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. And my supporting reasons would reflect those of the rezoning item number 3.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
That the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service in this case would be concurred in. Thank you.
Amendment?
With the amendments to the conditional use.
The amendment is for this one for the building height, so it would be a building height of 39.5 feet instead of 35 feet. And then keeping.
Yes.
Basically put back in condition 2 about, or variance 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
The public hearing with respects to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
We'll take care of that from Councilor Lewis. Thank you for that. At this point in time, as we mentioned, we're going to pause until 1 o'clock or thereabouts, and we'll resume with items 6, 7, and 8.
Beginning that. Are these?
Welcome back to the Assiniboia Community Committee for this Friday, September 5th. We are nearing the end of our public hearings on item number 6. I'm joined by Councillor Lutz and Councillor Dobson. I'm Councillor Duncan. I will turn it over to our senior committee clerk, Ms. Cowan, for item number 6, introduction.
Item 6 is a subdivision and rezoning at 4506 Grant Avenue under file DAS 26 of 2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following items will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 7 is a variance at 4506 Grant Avenue under file DAB 165873 of 2025D. Please note communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no new information is permitted. Speakers will be permitted 5 minutes for their presentations. All Zoom participants have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. If any participants in the Zoom meeting are watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute the YouTube audio now. If you'd like a brief overview from the planner.
Please. Yes, thank you.
My summary. So the subject site is on the south side of Grant Avenue, between Coventry Road and Fairmont Road. This is in the Eric Coy neighborhood of the Charles Wood Tuxedo Westwood ward. The site's approximately 1.1 acres in size. Access to the site is from Roblin Boulevard, as this site does not have a public lane. The site is located within the established neighborhoods, recent communities policy area of complete communities, and is zoned currently R1L residential single family large. The applicant proposes to consolidate the 2 lots on the site into 1 lot and rezone the land from the R1L zoning to the RMFS residential multifamily small district. This is to allow the applicant to construct a multifamily development with a total of 14 dwelling units. Plans submitted show the development will include a mix of side-by-side and duplex, side-by-side duplex and side-by-side triplex buildings. All buildings will be 1 story in height, with a maximum height of 18.2 feet to the top of the peak roof lines. A total of 27 accessory parking stalls are provided. This includes some units, 11 units of these 14 with 2 car garages, and then 3 of the 14 units will have 1 car garages. As well, they're providing 2 visitor parking stalls. The development also requires a variance concerning the building setback distance from Roblin Boulevard, the front yard of the property. The Urban Planning Division recommends approval of the subdivision and rezoning to RMFS because this is consistent with policies in complete communities in that it adds to the mix of housing types at a scale and built form in line with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposal is designed to be sensitive to the surrounding context in terms of building heights and setbacks. And the recommended zoning agreement that the Public Service recommends is to ensure that final design details can be reviewed by the Director of Planning and Development, as well as the Assiniboia Community Committee. So final plans would come back to this committee. And that would include, the more finer details like cladding materials, landscaping, setbacks, drive aisles, those type of things. As well, we're recommending a condition that a higher number of visitor parking stalls be provided. Their plans are showing 6 on this, or excuse me, 2 visitor parking spaces on the site. We are recommending 6. Just given the context and this block of Roblin Boulevard, there's no on-street parking available at any time of day. So any visitors that do not have a space in the garages provided would therefore be parking on side streets some distance away. So we're asking for just a higher level of visitor parking. They do meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw for visitor parking, which is two. So they are meeting the zoning bylaw. It's just something that we're asking in terms of making this more compatible with the area. So yeah, that's the summary, and happy to answer any questions.
Council colleagues, any questions at this point in time? Yes.
One question, so the entrance and exit is only onto Grant, so there's no other exit?
That's correct.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
In regards to visitor parking, looking at 15, I would assume that the visitor parking speak of is the east portion of the proposed development.
On page 15,
Item 6, subdivision.
there's two spots provided on their plans, and I believe that they are both kind of on each side of that driveway.
And in the end of that lane, there's what, a hammerhead for emergency vehicles, I'm assuming?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's required by the city.
And I'm assuming that that can't be used as official parking?
No, not officially.
Sign or something.
Parking within that hammerhead at the back or at the south side, that would be, because that needs to be available in cases of emergency. So parking would not be allowed there in any kind of official way.
And what about in front of their units?
So given the size of the lot and the configuration of what they're proposing, there isn't any driveway space in front of the units. They're showing walkways, so there's just not the space to provide, even like a parallel parking situation without parking in that drive aisle space, which the width is still like it's the minimum width that's required.
So no parking on the streets, but is what you're saying?
In front of on Roblin Boulevard.
No, in the development though?
They have garages for the residents.
Right.
And then they're showing two visitor parking stalls on outside.
But people can't park on that road then,
No,
right?
that
Okay.
needs to remain open to traffic.
And what, so I have to question, I guess, the capacity. Is there not a lot of capacity here to build something higher than this?
Well, I think the applicant can speak to that or will speak to that, but I think through their consultation process, based on the information they provided us, this was kind of the best fit for the neighborhood. They looked at a variety of different design concepts, and so the idea of a 3-story building or something like that, an apartment building. Again, they can speak to that a little bit more, I'm sure.
Okay. Good, thank you. Move on along.
So first, we will hear from the applicant, Brendan Salico, in support of the application. With us in person today.
Good afternoon.
Stick out a second here to get a
Yeah,
second.
sure.
Getting in.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Boulevard on the.
Think I'll be all right, but might call you back. We'll see. So, yeah, perfect.
Sorry, there we go. All right, we're back up. All right, my name is Brendan Salico. I'm a planner and partner at Landmark Planning and Design. And I'm joined today by my colleague Carolina Herrera. And we're also joined in the gallery by the proponent, Jeff Milnes, the president and owner of Progressive Real Estate. Before we get started, I want to thank the committee, the administration, the clerks, and those who are here for what we think is a very exciting proposal for the Charleswood neighborhood. And we would ask, we can ask it later if we need to for procedural reasons, but since there's the three of us, if we could combine our time so we can give a fulsome presentation of our proposal. So in terms of the project team, Progressive Real Estate, they're a local Winnipeg developer, and they're seeking to subdivide and rezone 4506 Grant Avenue to accommodate a residential development. Affinity Architecture was retained to lead the site and building design process, while our firm Landmark, we led the planning, engagement, and development approvals processes. In terms of the site context, I think the planner gave a great overview of the site. It is about 1.1 acres, bounded to the north by Grant, to the east by a single-family dwelling on Grant, to the south by a single-family dwelling on Coventry, and to the west by single-family dwellings on Coventry. So in terms of the planning, planning context, I won't go into a bunch of detail about our Winnipeg complete communities, but suffice it to say that in recent communities, particularly along arterials, there's policies, objectives, and language to encourage this type of development. It talks about expanding housing options, ensuring that those housing options are complementary to existing development, supporting up to mid-rise development in established neighborhoods when it's compatible with the neighborhood context, and then low to mid-rise along these arterial roads. In terms of the transit context, there are 3 routes within about a 600-meter walk of the subject site, ranging from the frequent express route along Grant to connector routes and then limited transit routes. And then, of course, in the future, there's plans for that Rose line along the Bill Clement Parkway, as well as Grant, just to the east of the site. In terms of the zoning context, so the Eric Coy neighborhood of Charleswood does feature a combination of R1 and RMF zoning districts. As mentioned, the subject site's currently R1L, and we're looking to rezone to RMF to accommodate multifamily development. And there are definitely some examples of multifamily along Grant in this stretch. So we do want to spend some time talking about our approach to public consultation and stakeholder engagement. This is a process that began almost a year ago, last October, where we met with adjacent and nearby residents and stakeholders to introduce 3 preliminary planning concepts, which we'll share shortly. We took the feedback from those meetings, and our approach at Landmark in engagement is to understand concerns so we can try to address them proactively and understand any potential impacts so that we can mitigate those through the planning and design process. We came back roughly 5 months later for a second round of meetings where we shared a preferred option, where we hoped that the majority of the feedback that we received was addressed, and then after that submitted this development application. So we'll spend a couple slides on what we heard during those rounds of engagement from October to March. So originally we had some 2- and 3-story concepts, which we'll share after this. And we did reduce the height to 1 story, which greatly reduces some of those concerns about impacts with privacy and shadows. The proposed design also incorporates a fence along the property limit, as well as some landscaping. In terms of trees, we did retain an arborist, and there is a landscape plan included as part of the proposal. There is a possibility to potentially preserve some trees in the front yard, but most of the landscaping will be made up with new plantings. There were some current concerns early about noise and emissions from cars. The drive aisle is going to be in the middle between the townhouses on either side. And for the most part, this is by far the least dense concept out of those that we had looked at potentially doing. So there won't be those impacts from a noise or car perspective. There were some concerns about land drainage. Obviously, we know there's some challenges in different areas of Charleswood with drainage. Drainage and grading plans are always conditions of approval. They have to be done by a stamped engineer and then approved by the city's water and waste department. So there won't be any challenges from that front on the site. In terms of snow removal, also a concern. That'd be the responsibility of the condo corp, as is very standard for this tenure type. In terms of traffic and parking, again, 14 units is what's being proposed, spoiler alert. And the concept provides for double garages for the majority of the units. 11 of the 14 will have the double garage. And then, as the planner noted, those two visitor parking stalls on site. But we didn't have concerns from a traffic perspective. Sorry.
Okay, we've combined it, right? So that it's.
Well, you got to
Got to move motion to another 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, okay.
You can do 5 and then
Five.
we can further.
okay, move for 5-minute extension. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Please go on.
Much appreciated. And then in terms of construction impacts, some folks were concerned about things like piling, and the developer confirmed that in this case, it would be drilled pile, so you don't have that, clunk, 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 and no issues from a vibration standpoint there. So these are those preliminary design concepts that we had discussed at that first round of meetings. So we had looked at various options to develop the site. One was 3-story townhouses, roughly 15 units. One was 2-story townhouses, 27 units. And then one was kind of your more traditional multifamily 3-story walk-up style with 39 units. So based on some of those considerations, some of our discussions with the city departments, as well as with stakeholders, this is what we were proposing for our preferred design concept. So it's a single-story bungalow condo development with 14 residential units, 27 parking stalls total, 11 of those in the double garages, 3 in the single garages, and then 2 designated outdoor stalls as well. Access, of course, off Grand Avenue, the only frontage that we have for this site. Here's an elevation. So this was done by the architect, giving an example of the feel. We really tried to blend in with that existing character on both sides of the site. So again, bungalow, high quality design. The idea here, it's not officially designated 55 plus, but the idea here, we've done quite a bit of work in the area over the years, and I think there's a demand for folks who want to age in place or downsize, maybe from the larger lots, don't want the maintenance. They go away for the summer to the lake, or they're in Palm Springs in the winter, but want to stay in Charleswood. There aren't a lot of options for that, particularly from this kind of bungalow condo perspective. So that would be the target market here, which we feel is a great fit for this site. Again, just a rendering here, seeing that access off Grant. Looking here from the Grant intersection, looking towards the southeast here, some of that landscaping that's proposed for the frontage. And then a view from that interior turnaround, as the planner noted, that's a requirement for the fire lane there. So while we did work very collaboratively with the planning department and other city departments and do agree with the vast majority of the public services recommendations, there is one that we would like to change back to our original proposal. So the committee, the administration has recommended those 6 guest parking stalls. And there's a few reasons why we'd prefer to proceed with R2 as originally proposed. So the project does already exceed the requirement for both parking in total and guest parking. So we're required 1.4 guest parking stalls. We're providing 2. So that's already above and beyond the requirement. And we're not seeking a parking variance here. So usually, we see in many of our projects, we are actually asking for a variance to reduce visitor parking. In this case, we actually exceed the requirement. Second, it is somewhat of an unprecedented ask. So 6 visitor stalls for 14 units would be a 43% ratio, which is 4.3 times the city's requirement. Most projects on major arterials actually receive administrative support for reduced parking ratios, and in many cases, visitor parking as well. The project was scaled back into the least impactful concept in order to address many of those comments and items that came up during our engagement. But of course, condos, by going by that with that lowest intensity concept, takes up more of the site's footprint, of course. So if we're going 2 or 3 stories, there's more room on the surface for things like stalls. However, we think that this is a concept that fits. And in doing so, there is no room for those extra visitor stalls. Again, the target market, perhaps own fewer cars. Double garages can informally serve visitors as well. And then extra stalls would mean less units or losing landscaping. There were a couple of examples in the administrative report that were comparable. We looked at the numbers in a bit of detail, and it does seem that those ratios are actually much closer to what we're proposing than what's actually in the report. So we might look for some clarity on kind of what those those examples, how they relate to this one here. But that would be our only requested change, is that we go with the two visitor stalls, which exceeds the requirement. So just in summary, we feel this is an excellent proposal for Charleswood and for Grant Avenue. It's consistent with our policy documents, our Winnipeg and communities, fits the scale and the character of the surrounding residential context. It increases housing choice in the community by adding accessible, single-level homes suited for seniors, young families, or those seeking to downsize. It's well served by transit. It addresses stakeholder concerns while mitigating those impacts. And it's the result of over a year of close collaboration, not only with the city administration, but with stakeholders as well. So thank you for your consideration on this file. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
So where you talked about the parking, the visitor parking, so just show me where it's going to be, the visitor parking.
Yeah, for sure. So go back to the site plan here. Yeah, so basically there's two stalls in between duplex 1 and 2 on the east side, and then duplex 1 and triplex 2 on the east side. So
And if you had to do 6, where would they be?
So we have to do 6. There isn't much room. They would have to be, I think, in the front yard, which I don't think would receive support. I don't think that would work, because that's where we have our landscaping as well. And then because of fire's requirements for the hammerhead, that would be the other natural spot to have them, would be at the end of that drive aisle. But because of the length of this cul-de-sac, we do have to have the hammerhead. So there really is no spot for them. We would have to lose units. And unfortunately, because of where we're already at with the 14 units, I think that would bring into question the feasibility of the project. And I think we'd have to relook at whether that would work or not.
So I mean, I understand you're the planner and all, but like 1 story on Grant?
No, fair.
Horrible.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at different concepts, and, we always try to find that right balance, right? Where it's addressing concerns proactively, making sure that there's something feasible, and then also fits within the, the policy and the objective requirements. So I think in this particular case, I think, often on corridors like this, we would be looking at higher density. From our work in Charleswood, the proponent feels that there is definitely demand. We've heard it on other projects we've worked on for this, type of, aging in place opportunity. So, the proponent feels that could work in this spot. And the bonus to that is that I think, the vast majority of concerns that were raised can be addressed. But you're right. I mean, often we're looking at different scale and different, even zoning district on a corridor like this. But there's that balance to try to address city concerns, resident concerns, and then meeting the market or feasibility considerations as well. So great point.
Wow.
Thank you. Do you have any other comparable developments on this stretch, or Roblin, any other neighborhood?
In terms of, the zoning district itself, definitely along the stretch of Grant, there are some multifamily developments, some more recent, some, 50, 60 years old at this point. In terms of this, type, the bungalow condo, really don't see much of that. And, it's interesting because in a lot of our other engagement that we've done in Charleswood, we've really heard folks say that there's a lack of this type of opportunity in Charleswood, and that they'd really like to see something like this. So I think there's definitely a large swath of the Charleswood population that are at that age where they would be looking for something like this, that they could stay in the community when they decide it's time to downsize from the single family home on the large lot.
Okay, well then I'll draw your attention to Chalfont and Grant, to Mayfield and Elmhurst, to Cathcart and Grant, to Fairmont and Grant, to Barker and Roblin. Just off the top of my head, very similar developments that nobody can get into because they're bought up and held for decades. So
More stories.
so, I mean, I would agree with you that this is extremely desirable in the neighborhood. And that unfortunately, for whatever reason, it just has not been the I guess, the prerogative of developers when they've looked at the neighborhood. It's more so extreme density. I get it from a dollars and cents standpoint, but this isn't uncommon in the area, so just wanted to bring that to your attention that it's not super common, but common enough and has been done back into probably, I would say, must have been the 80s when some of these were brought online. So I heard from residents around concerns about the new intersection that would be created or drive aisle on Grant. How was that addressed?
Yeah, so, as always with these types of projects, a lot of discussions with Public Works. I believe it's a condition that we wouldn't be able to have a curb cut there through Grant, so there'd be that requirement for a U-turn. I believe Public Works looked at it and based on the numbers, so the fact that there are only 14 units, they're not concerned about traffic numbers at this spot. So, and I believe we shared that with residents at that second round. Just letting them know that Public Works had taken that look and is okay with the access as proposed. Often, when we're working on projects, especially multifamily, we'll have two frontages sometimes three if there's a rear lane. This one's kind of unique in that, Grant is the only access point possible because we're surrounded on the other three sides by single family homes.
Did that impact your decision on how many units? The just, I suppose, lack of in and out, the forced right-hand turn out of there?
Not directly, but it was, I think, part of in those discussions with Public Works. If it was going to be more dense, then I think maybe a traffic study would have been required to see, if it worked, and then, figuring out potentially an alternative. But with what was proposed, they didn't have any issues.
And around parking, I mean, I think it's great that there's so many 2-car garages that are an option here. I would assume, to your point, that this would be probably focused market-wise towards seniors. I can't say with certainty, but obviously, again, I get lots of calls from people who wish to downsize but not leave their neighborhood for a variety of reasons. So we have 2 spots and that meets the requirement from the city of Winnipeg. So where are we getting this confusion of the city now asking for, what was it, 43%?
Yeah, so, we looked at there were a couple examples in the planner's report that showed or that stated that there were much higher ratios. One was, I believe, 130 Allard. The other one, I don't remember the address specifically, but it's on Roblin. And it said that they had ratios of, 0.4, 0.45 around there, close to the average of what the city's asking for here. So we looked at those approvals and it seemed, and we'll defer to the administration on this, but the first one, the one on Allard, I believe there's around 70 units and 10 visitor stalls. So that would be a ratio of 0.14, which is the exact same ratio actually that we're meeting here. And then the other one on Roblin, I believe there were 80 units total with 11 visitor parking stalls based on what we saw on Demas in that approval. And that would be a 0.15 ratio. Again, us 0.14 and that 0.15. So we're not sure kind of where that higher number came from. Looking at the average, the other one that was included as an example is a project that we worked on Oakdale. It was a condo court, so a very different concept that didn't require rezoning. It was the number of visitor stalls for that one is a function of the requirements in the zoning bylaw to do an as of right condo court. And as it turned out, that project isn't moving forward because it wasn't feasible. So don't want to get in too deep in those examples, but we do feel that maybe they aren't the best examples, especially the 2 that are more similar to this one, where we don't think that the actual ratio reflects the numbers that are in the administrative report. So, but again, we'll defer to the administration on those.
So I'm not trying to put you on the spot for specifics, but as the Public Service has already said, technically you're not allowed to park in front of your garage. I would assume that people will do it regardless of whether they're allowed or not. Whether or not the condo corp enforces there is their business at that point, but how much space is there between the garage space and the actual roadway?
So I believe it's a 20-foot drive aisle with a 5-foot sidewalk on either side. So roughly about 30 feet from garage space to garage space. So yeah, as you mentioned, as the planner mentioned, technically folks are not allowed to park on that. But we've seen it in other cases. We would also note that, there is Coventry and there is Fairmont in relatively close proximity. I get it, it's a bit of a walk. It's not, it's not directly out front, but I don't think this is too dissimilar from what we've seen, on other projects in other areas where if there is more visitor parking than, what we would expect under normal circumstances, maybe say a Super Bowl party or something, that folks will not be able to park and they might have to park and walk, a minute or a minute and a half to get to the unit that they're going to. And so, we're comfortable with this number. Again, we look to the zoning bylaw. We're exceeding that zoning bylaw requirement. We're not asking for any variances related to parking. So we think this works for the model. And, I do think it's, we do think it's workable, and, I'll leave it at that.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, again, people will do what they want when it comes to parking. But at the end of the day, you have Our Lady of Perpetual Help across the street with hundreds of parking spots, primarily vacant there as well. So I'm not encouraging people to cross at uncontrolled intersections, but we're talking about 14 units, but we could be talking about 40 units. So anyway, I don't have any other questions at this point in time, but if nothing else from my colleagues at this point either, appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Carolina, are you making, like, you guys are together as the applicant?
Yes,
no further comments. So then we have no one else registered to speak in support of this. Is there anyone else in the gallery that wishes to speak in support of the application? There's no one on Zoom. The folks on Zoom are for information, so we'll move on to opposition. So Americo Nevis is here in opposition.
Of course.
Oh, sure, we'll just need, you sure?
What if he just joins her at the table?
Sure, we'll just need you to fill out a public representation form.
No problem.
I'll just fill it out with you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing, thank you.
Just so we have it for the record, could you state your name?
Oh, absolutely. That's Sarah Henry. Sarah with an H at the end, please.
Thank you, Sarah.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us to have this time to talk. And I do appreciate the presentation that came before us. It was well put together. I have seen similar already before with the public engagement. We live at 4426 Grant, so we are the property directly next to them. We go the entire length of this proposed project. Couple of issues. I'd like to start by saying we're not actually against the infilling, and we're not actually against like this project. Just some of these finer points I feel like are absolute issues for us and for most of our neighbors as we know it. As all of us have brought up, the parking situation, quite atrocious. This is a problem. Yeah, like there's no real parking there. There's only one access on Grant. Like there's no back lane. There's nowhere to offload any of this like traffic that would be going there. Another big issue for us is the front variance for us. So all of these houses, when we go up to our front door, we would be opening it to a wall from where they have it starting. So the front units there are a big issue for us. Because they're asking for a variance to extend these properties, but then we can't even see our street. So when I come out to my front yard, how would I see the kids walking by when I go to pull out of my front driveway? So that is a bit of an issue, because I can't see my street anymore, because all I can see is a wall of house. So that is, the front variance thing is a big issue for my husband and for I. Just based on safety of kids, like I can't even tell you how many times it is a busy, like you said, busy walkway, busy corridor with buses. Kids are the number one issue we have with not being seen. I've seen countless accidents almost on ground. So that is my concern, my kids as well. So the front variance was the big one. The no back lane access is a little bit problematic in my opinion. If you're having 14 units, like not having that kind of access to the back lane is a big issue. There's no front yards. There's nowhere for any of these people to park. Again, to me are big issues. The city services stuff, I had a few questions about the city services. They went over it. As long as the snow is not bumping up against my property, I don't care what you do with it. That is your business. The fire truck, as long as, you know, city services are able to get in there safely, cool with that. Another issue is the garbages. Are we planning on putting 16 bins on that short curb? Because if everybody's entitled to one recycling and one garbage, where are all these bins supposed to go when it's garbage day? That is not a long enough space to put 15 or 16 bins. That's just not like logistical. I'm a math lady. But there's also like another thing that I did notice, and not to criticize their property or criticize what their plans are, would be there's no actual yards or anything proposed for any of these people. Like there's nowhere for them to go. They have a sidewalk and then the street. So like, again, it goes back to where are people supposed to park? If each person, let's say it's Christmas, no Super Bowl party, but let's say it's Christmas, you want to have your mom over for dinner. Where's your mom going to park if your neighbor's mom came over for dinner as well? This is a huge issue, and like, I get you can say Coventry, but I actually timed the walk, a video of it. I timed that walk. It's actually 6 minutes to get over to park on the side street if you were walking from that property.
I could just have you direct your comments through me.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
But it's actually like a 6-minute walk to get around there. So like, if you're having seniors and designating this or marketing it as a seniors block, they don't even shovel that walkway the 6 minutes to Coventry. So I feel like that would be an issue for seniors, is not having a safe place to walk and be able to commute to get to this bus. Like if they were busing or even if they were walking over to the Safeway or anything like that, I feel like that would be a little bit problematic. Like these are all people's backyards this touches, right? Like not having back lanes or only one access, and not to criticize the city either. You guys, it's Winnipeg, we're full of snow, but like seniors being able, like, I can't even tell you how many times I walk out to my front and I have to help the old ladies carrying their bags. So if you're marketing this as something that's supposed to be for seniors and there's no parking for any of their cars or anything like that, I could see this being an issue, right? Like, and Comparable is down the block on Fairmont, the Comparable stuff. They have a lot more than 2 visitor spaces, a lot more. So having 2 visitor spaces, just the math ain't mathing, if that makes sense. No stopping out front. What about Amazon? Where's Amazon gonna stop? Like if everybody's getting, I'll catch that. Thank you.
Do you need an extension at all?
No, I'm good. I got my complaints out.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. You bring up a good point around the garbage collection. I'll get clarification on that, but I believe that the condo corp pays for service for regular garbage pickup, just as everybody else. Put their bin out, they come down, pick it up, hammerhead, turn, come back around.
Yeah. Just where are they gonna put the bins? That's all I care about, right? Like all the bins blow into the street and in the middle of ground. Like we have to pick up bins all the time, never mind 16, right?
I would assume that they'll be on the drive aisle, but we'll get clarification on.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Yeah, because it is be a 5-inch, for instance, like a garbage bin.
Is it gonna go next to my door?
Where would that go? Because then,
Right.
according to the diagram, that's the space allowed for the fire truck.
Yes. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. We'll get clarification on that, whether it be from the public service or the applicant. They're entitled to come back and explain some things. The visitor spaces, I hear you on that. The Comparable to Fairmont, I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with you on that. Fairmont, I believe, has 60-something units there. So I agree that there would be more visitor spaces, but because there's 5 times as many, 4 times as many units there. So, yeah, just to take it into consideration. But you raise a good point with guests and how that would be managed. Perhaps we can hear more about the applicant's thoughts on that as well. I do want to point out that, yes, the target audience would be seniors, but I also want to point out that, I mean, that doesn't have to be somebody who's can't walk, can't manage on their own. Seniors are, different range of ages, different ranges of abilities. So just to point that out, that they're fully able-bodied people. So this isn't a care facility, right? Your setback issues, can you just elaborate a little bit more on that and how you see it? I'm looking at the plan and I do see a bit of a setback, but maybe how it was explained to you, and then we could get clarification.
So wanted to point back, like, Psalm 4426, 44, the house on my east side, 442.
East side.
Yeah, he got an addition built on the front of his house, and he needed my signature to approve that addition. So I'm just curious.
For the variance.
Yeah, for the variance. So I'm curious as to what this property planning needed my signature for that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a bit misleading. I don't know that they needed the signature to go ahead with it. I think they need the signature to show support for it. Yeah.
Just because it, like I said, it blocks our view, so now we open our door and I'm gonna see a wall versus the nice.
Pulling out of our driveway.
Sorry.
That view to see.
And just, I don't want to say your address on the record unless you want it on the record, but you are to the east of this.
Yep,
development.
directly next to us, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when I look at their,
We share 320 feet.
yeah,
There.
you're about, call it 7/8 of the property pretty much. Just the one huge property on Fairmont is at the end of all of you folks on Grant. Okay. So again, I'm just going back to their plan, and I'm not gonna speak for them or the public service, but I do see some setback there. Can you elaborate on what in an ideal situation it would look like for you folks? Is it not like, from what you guys have understood, the setback essentially aligns with your side door?
Yep.
Yeah, because for instance, right now with the diagrams they were showing, right now with our side door, if I open up my side door, I just see nice open grass and trees. Whereas now, according to the diagrams, if I open my door, I will just see.
We can't use our windows anymore.
It's just a wall of houses.
I wouldn't be able to see my kids walking home from school, looking out my window there and seeing my kids come up the block. That would be gone for me. It's a busy intersection. I watch my kids walk to the bus and back.
I don't have any other questions at this time. We'll hopefully hear and get some answers from the public service or applicant. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else registered in opposition to the application, just confirming that no one else in the gallery is here in opposition. So we'll move on to those registered for information. First, we have Chris Joyle, who's joining us via Zoom. Hi, Chris. We've just asked you to unmute your microphone, and then you have up to 5 minutes for your presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly share. It was reviewed in the initial discussion here. There's only a couple of points with it. The parking definitely is a concern, and the requirements by the city.
Chris, I'm gonna have to pause you there for a second.
Chris, so just anything that is presented to the committee has to be provided to the clerk. So if you could please email me a copy of the presentation that you're showing now, then you can proceed to share it.
No, I'll hold off on that just for the sake of time for everybody. It's basically, if I go to the very top, I will say it out loud. It is item number 6. It is the one we're here for today, and I have some concerns regarding the parking definition. It's a very tricky one, and I'll give Landmark some great kudos in the respect that they have tried their best to appease the original three designs and streamline it into something that is more applicable to possibly being liked by the community. And I think that they've done a good job in that respect. Parking is still an issue. And the second thing I have is the access in. I know that it was listed by Landmark in the definition that there was no traffic study done. I understand that. The incidences at the Fairmont units that were built quite a many years back, the U-turns that have happened there, the amount of accidents that have happened there, the Grant and Roblin intersection where we've had jaws of life and cars upside down because people run the light. Trying to make the U-turn that I make to get to my property, and I'm the one next to Americo's, the one that actually took the variance out for front access. That U-turn is dangerous. Period. I will not make the U-turn even if the lights are red. I have to make sure everybody stops. People coming from Coventry drive straight across when they're not allowed to. So I know that's the only access in. If you are driving westbound to get into this property, it's very similar to mine. Would I choose a safer path to go down Fairmont to Eldridge, Eldridge to Coventry? If it means saving myself, yes. I don't see how a traffic study can't be done. When the church is being offloaded on Sunday, that parking lot, the countless number of hundreds of cars that come out of there and make that U-turn, it's dangerous enough as it is. Overflow on Coventry for parking is a huge issue. And the parking at the church, I wouldn't park at the church. I've had friends that have gone over and parked at the church and walked over, only to find notes on their dash because they shouldn't have been parking there. And if it's a repeat offender, they will do something and have you towed. So I don't think the church shouldn't even be optioned as a consideration for anybody living in that area. The design is good as far as streaming it down from what was originally given. The can't stop people from parking on the street, on their local street. Fire trucks sure going to hate that if people break the law. Yes, the condo people are responsible for them parking there. I'm just thinking safety for all, right? I definitely can see people parking on their street and blocking that way. Now, as far as the comments regarding the U-turn, Evan made a comment that maybe there could be some timing changes on the lights at Grant and Roblin. Maybe they could do some form of changing the timing of the lights. That all the accidents I've seen over 33 years of living here have been brought basically because not timing, not the fact that people don't see red lights, is they ignore them or they rush them, or they're distracted as today's driving with cell phones and such. So changing the timing won't change. We could change the timing today and not put this development in and probably have similar instances, if not more, because more people are driving and there's more cell phones. I only see the only way to make it safe on that street for kids coming home from school is to block that off totally. Just have the people go around the church, have the people go down Fairmont to Eldridge. Yes, it's a trike for them, but then one of the comments that came out in one of the meetings was, you're just kicking the can down the road. You're now making other intersections more busy. So it's parking and it's safety on Grant. Those are my two concerns.
All right, thank you, Chris. You're stirring my mind here to remember our conversations, which is accurate. We talked about the traffic lights, changing the timing on them. We also talked about westbound traffic potentially turning right onto Fairmont northbound to come back out onto Roblin as a roundabout way to get there. I I don't know if at the time we discussed prohibiting U-turns altogether at Coventry. Again, that would.
So first off, that won't work because there's a sign that says you can't drive straight on Coventry and go westbound on Grant. You actually have to make the turn to go east, then make a U-turn at the Fairmont. No, people drive across. And how do I know that? Because when I'm making my U-turn, I stop there, and if I don't see a blinker, if it's a blinker, I give them the right of way because I don't want to have a congestion when I make a U-turn. If there's no blinker, I sit there and I wave them, and I drive them nuts because they want to drive straight across. And I don't let them because they're going to break the law and put someone at risk. So putting a sign up, no U-turns, putting a sign, we already have the sign that says you can drive straight through it, and people do. So people will make that U-turn. We're human, right? We want to get home.
You bring up an interesting point though, why that intersection is still open there. It is extremely close to Roblin and Grant, so.
Well, with the accidents with the vehicles in my 33 years here, running out because somebody has already saw 911, cars upside down, jaws of life, and I'm looking at that between Grant and Roblin intersection to that U-turn. What do you got, like 100, 150 feet, if that? I don't make that U-turn unless everybody's stopped. It's just not safe.
I'm not sure I don't think I've ever had an opportunity to get into discussion with Public Works on closing an intersection like this, but it's definitely something that you've sparked my interest in. Okay, I don't have any other questions for you. Appreciate you presenting. Chris, anything else?
No, that's it at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just sad to see the trees go.
Yes.
I fully understand that there's, it is an eyesore at the moment with the old house there, but it was very sad to see the amount of trees go.
Okay.
If they proceed with this.
Thank you. All right, we will move on.
Okay, so our last individual registered for information is Linda Joyle, who's joining us via Zoom as well. Linda, we've just asked you to start your video. And you have up to 5 minutes for your presentation.
Hi, Linda.
I really don't have any more further comments. I think everybody has said what our concerns are. I think safety and traffic are the biggest one. There are, just up the way is at 3 o'clock. There are school children up and down that street all the time, coming either way from Charleswood Junior High, which is up the way, or through the elementary school at Dieppe. So it's kind of scary to think of what might happen at that the intersection with kids and stuff. Other than that, it's sad to see all those amount of trees going, and that's about it. Thank you.
Any questions at all for Linda? No. Okay, thank you very much.
So that concludes public representation. There's no one in the gallery registered with respect to the application or who wishes to speak with respect to the application. Great. If there are questions for the public service.
Yeah, just some clarification on a few of the points there, if you could.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, correct me if I'm, missing the points. But in terms of the visitor parking, that is correct that they are meeting the zoning bylaw. We are asking for more parking, more visitor parking than what the zoning bylaw requires. Similar to how, sometimes we'll rezone a property that allow to RMFM that allows 70 feet, but we're not wanting to see the full 70 feet built. So we put a restriction on the zoning agreement that limits it to 45. Or we can ask for increased landscaping beyond what the zoning bylaw allows. So yes, they are meeting the zoning bylaw. For sure, there's no variance for the visitor parking. But in order to, in our view, make this project a better fit with the neighborhood, that's where this ask for increased visitor parking comes from. In terms of how we calculate those other examples like 130 Allard, 3707 Roblin, that's just dividing the number of visitor parking stalls over the number of units. That's how we calculate the ratio. I'm not a mathematician, but that's just kind of like our approach to calculating visitor parking ratios in those other examples. I guess another thing that I can mention on page 25 of the plans with this agenda for this subdivision rezoning item does show they are asking for a variance to the front yard setback. They're asking for one of the corners of the building to come up to 10 feet setback from Roblin. The front yard alignment is 26 feet under the zoning bylaw, so that's what they would have to meet, but they're coming up to 10 feet. With that, we asked them to provide a drawing showing a 45-degree angle from the front walls of the adjacent properties. So the neighbor to the east who's here today, as well as the neighbor to the west of this property. And for both of those, it does fall out, the setback does fall outside of that. It's shown in yellow, that 45-degree angle. So in looking at that, we're satisfied with the front yard setback that they are proposing. It's in line with the existing house to the east. The building that will be alongside them is kind of has the same front yard setback that they do.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it here, so it doesn't obstruct their side entrance, because I'm assuming they have two side entrances here. But it definitely is in line with their side entrance, is what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
Sorry, should we have emergency services going by? Just give me a sec here.
Yeah, that truck was looking for a hammerhead intersection somewhere. So yes, the building, one of these buildings will be built beside this house and will be, right beside them when they come out of side entrance, but it's our look at it and the plans they submitted show that the building will not be out in front of their, kind of jutting out in front of where their house is. It will kind of be the front of the building. Yeah.
Line.
Yeah. I don't know if there was anything else.
Garbage. Is the typical practice for condo courts, like SIPs and.
Yeah, my understanding is that these will be rollout bins that, people would keep in the garages and then would roll out on private collection day. That may be something that the applicant can clarify, but that was kind of.
So typically they would roll them out in front of their garages, not out to Grant Avenue?
Yes, that's correct. It would be, somewhere on that 5-foot walkway.
Okay. Sidewalk.
Yeah.
Right, on the inner street.
That's correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of right in front of the garage doors.
I think that addresses those concerns. Okay. Was there anything else that needed clarification? Turning to my colleagues here. Doesn't appear so. Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so the applicant is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made. So Brendan and Carolina, up to 5 minutes for your presentation. But no new information is permitted.
And is it okay if we bring back up the presentation just to clarify?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Okay. There it goes. No. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I just want to thank Sarah, Linda and Chris, I think we recognize them all from our stakeholder meetings, very appreciative of their feedback. They're great stakeholders to work with through this process and appreciate their concerns as well. So for the front yard, as the planner mentioned, yeah, there actually was quite a bit of work that went into making sure that would be appropriate. I think actually the next slide will show it well. So I believe this is your house, right? You're here. So yeah, just to reassure folks that you know, their home actually does extend out further than the triplex would be there. So we're not going to be blocking the view of the sidewalk from their front there. And part of the reason actually for that variance is, as you can see there, you know, the site is roughly north-south, but Grant isn't perfectly east-west. So the area where the variance is calculated is that shortest point, that which is 10 feet. But then at the corner, it's actually closer to 28 feet. So next to this folks, you know, the residents there, it's actually a much greater setback than the 10 feet. And again, that is just with some of those older river lots, some of those property lines. Of course, we have to calculate the variance from the closest spot, which is that 10 feet, but it's much larger for most of the frontage. And then as Mr. Galston explained, we did do that 45-degree angular study on both sides to ensure that folks weren't having, you know, major sightline impacts or anything like that, both for safety and both just for aesthetics, and something that planning does for evaluating these types of proposals. In terms of safety, yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, there would be, as per usual, folks would have to stop at that sidewalk before driving out. And again, it is a relatively small number of units. You know, when we talk to Public Works, this stretch of Grant, I believe, has 15,000 cars a day, whereas the stretch before Roblin and after Roblin is even higher, over 20,000 in each case. So 14 new units, you know, not to use this terminology, but really a drop in the bucket in terms of overall addition of new traffic to the network. That's not to deny that there are traffic issues in this area of Charleswood, and you know, as there are around the city, in terms of, you know, some old angles, old roadways, difficult alignments and geometry. So I don't think this issue is something that this project in specific will fix, but Public Works, in our discussions with them and through our discussions with the administration, they felt comfortable that this would be safe relative to those other existing issues that hopefully can be solved at some point. In terms of parking, again, came up, you know, again, I would say our answer is the same, that, you know, there are visitor stalls. Some folks might not be using both of their, you know, both of their garage stalls. So there is potential for informal parking when visiting. And then for some folks, there will be that short walk from either Fairmont or Coventry. Just to confirm, yeah, the planner's correct. That would be rolling bins, and to the points, they would be out on the driveway, not on Grant, and then the usual pickup with recycling and garbage along that drive aisle. And then, yeah, I think those were most of the points that did come up. You know, I don't know if this is true or not. Some might say that seniors are more prone to driving slowly or more cautiously, if that provides any, you know, thing there of coming out onto Grant and, you know, keeping eyes open for pedestrians and kids going to school and things like that. But hopefully we've been able to address all the questions that did come up. And again, appreciate, you know, the folks who came out for information and for opposition. Great stakeholders, very respectful in our meetings, and appreciate the dialogue we've had over this last roughly year. So thank you.
It's questions at all? Just the one question, like I'm looking street view now on our city system. Whereabouts is the property line between the side of the residents' homes are here in Delegation and where you're going to be building this fence?
Yeah, great
distance from, because they have a side step, which I would assume is, you know, must be 4 feet wide, 3 feet wide, something of that nature.
Yeah, so I believe our side yard setback is 10 feet on both sides. Yeah, 10 feet between the basically the far east wall and that fence that will be built by the developer, and then same thing on the west side as well.
and I know it's not your property or applicant's property here, but do you know how far the fence would be from their side step?
Not 100% sure. Do you guys know or sorry, I guess I should address directly, but
I can also look in our property
it
line.
looks like it might be maybe 4 or 5 feet from like that their setback is, but I'm not 100% not sure on that. Okay. So it would be, what we kind of compare this to is, if this was a single family home, single family home might have a 3 or 4 foot side yard, directly next door. That's common on, new lots all over the city. So in this case, we're at 10 feet. So larger than, we would see from even 2-story or 3-story homes, which could go right up to that, 4 foot side yard. So cases larger than that.
And the fence itself, this will obviously, I won't get into it. We'll discuss it if this is approved by the committee. Plan approval, as the planner stated, would come back to this committee. So I won't get into details of nuts and bolts here, but I don't have any other questions around the subdivision or variance.
Thank you.
All right. So at this point in time, we have opportunity for motions. If I could have somebody take the chair for me, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Just getting back up here. All right. So this is in regards to item number 6, subdivision rezoning of 4506 Grant Avenue. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that the receipt of the public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service, and if I could get assistance from the clerk on this, I won't be directing the department to be expanded to 6.
So removing the condition from 2A2 that a minimum of 6 parking stalls be located on site.
And then just with the, how do we word that?
So concurring with the public service recommendation with an amendment to delete that recommendation. Just confirming with Robert that there's no other changes needed if they're gonna delete that.
And does that hold the applicant to a certain number of spots? Because I don't want it to be 0.
It would be 2, that's what they're showing, and the zoning bylaw requires 2.
So they couldn't drop it to none.
If they dropped it to 1 or 0, then they would need a variance that would come to this committee.
Trigger it back. So is it easier to leave it or to put the number 2?
I think you can just take it out entirely because 2 is required anyway.
All right, so the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service as amended be forwarded to the executive policy, because there was an alteration, the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Developments. So several things here. I appreciate everyone that came out and spoke today. There was, I would say, sufficient community consultation that took place here that looked at several options. One of which included a 3-story apartment block that I did not feel, fell within the context of the community. There could be argument that 3-story townhomes could have, definitely that 2-story condos could have fallen within that context of the community, but ultimately to have bungalows is, in this day and age, is very rare to be proposed. And I think that it's going to provide residents of the surrounding neighborhood an opportunity to stay in their neighborhood, potentially downsize. There are concerns around creating another access point, keeping in mind that there is an access point for a driveway already there, but we are introducing, with the addition of 14 units, 13 more families potentially, 13 more residents, whatever it may be at the end of the day. So that is something that I'm carefully considering However, Mr. Joyle brought up potentially closing that intersection of Coventry, which I mean, I'm sure that I will get pushback on, but I will explore that option. I already have asked Councillor Lukes, who chairs our Public Works Committee, if that's something that is even a discussion, and we can discuss it. So looking at that or putting turn-in restrictions, I know that there's not much confidence in the public that people are going to be following those restrictions, but at least it's something that would be enforceable. Also, as I had mentioned in my consultation with the community, hearing them out on some of the concerns, altering the timing on the lights at Grant and Roblin to mitigate that. The fact that the parking requirements are met, they are the minimum, but they are the requirements, so that would be in the favor of the applicant. Again, addressing the height of any development there, staying with the bungalow concept, I think is fitting for this community. I think it will really be tailored towards seniors that are trying to downsize into something that might be more mobility friendly. I regret that we didn't ask about potential of some of these units being mobility friendly to some people who might need those accommodations. Yeah, I think that this is a very modest infill and it will fit within the context of the community. I do empathize with the adjacent neighbors and some of the folks that may or may not be impacted by on-street parking, but we can't control that unless we put either no parking or time limited parking, which creates a whole nother issue for those existing residents. So with that, I'll ask that you call to question on my supported reasons.
Okay, any other comments from anyone? No? Okay, I'll keep mine to myself. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I'll move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Okay, I will move that the report, sorry, this is in regards to item number 7, the variance of 4506 Grant Avenue, that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
That the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
That in accordance with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, that the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg. And any applicable secondary plan does not create any substantial adverse effects on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including the area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve any injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property is to be affected is situated. And I just want to reinforce that in particular, the folks to the east property, I do empathize with the situation that their side entrance will in fact be affected. So I do take that into consideration, but I will also have my supporting reasons from the subdivision rezoning included in this variance.
Right. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
And I'll move that the recommendation of Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and that the variance be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
And the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered. Okay. Committee.
Yes, I will bring back to number 8. We heard from delegations on this morning. This is for 445 Sterling Line Parkway. Do we need any more from the public service on this?
We just need to,
Oh, my apologies. I'm still
Okay.
here.
So take the chair, yay?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take the chair.
Item 8 is a variance at 445 Sterling Line Parkway under file DAB 203819 of 2025D. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. The applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no new information is permitted. Please, speakers will be permitted 5 minutes for their presentations, and if you'd like a brief overview from the planner, if you wish.
I'm familiar with this.
I am too. We've done a lot of work on this project.
Not only have we had several times that they've come forward with this plan in different iterations, I believe. We've worked with different stakeholders on this as well. So if there's an appetite to hear from the public service, I'm open to it, but if not, we can move on. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on.
Okay, so we'll move on to the applicant, Evan Hansen, who's joining us via Zoom today. Evan, we've just asked you to start your video.
Thank you. And good afternoon now. Evan, welcome back.
Hi, thank you. I'm not sure if Christopher from Paragon actually wants to speak or if it should be me.
Are you both appearing as the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, then you'll share the 5 minutes and then you can both proceed with your presentation.
Go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I have much of a presentation, just was mostly coming back to answer any questions if you had any for the variants that we're asking for today.
I don't have anything specific to the variance. I can just regurgitate what is asked of me from the community. When will this construction begin? If
as soon as possible, we're hoping later this fall.
I don't see any other questions from the committee here. We'll move on. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's no one, just noting for anyone watching, there's no one else registered in support, in opposition, or for information. And there is also no one in the gallery. So if there are questions for the public service.
Okay, we'll move on.
Technically, the applicant is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made. Evan and Christopher, I'm not sure if you want to rebut anything, nothing really to rebut. But
No need to rebut, thank you.
okay. So if the committee ready to
I'll
vote.
take the chair.
Yeah, I'll take the chair, sure.
Sorry, I'll hand the chair. Move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Carried.
move that the receipt of public representation be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
I'll move that in accordance with the subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter. The variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan does not create any substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining properties and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of zoning bylaw required to relieve any injurious effect on the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. Supporting reasons on the variance. Fits within the plan of Seasons, provides additional housing. Is highly sought after. And is a minimum request for variance in my humble opinion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. I'll move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Move that the public hearings with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
I'll move back to item number 6 of our regular agenda, and as I scroll through, do we have a move, or do you want me to move? You still have the chair. I'll move Public service recommendation on item number 6.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great project, carried. Okay,
And I'll take the chair back. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it. That was a lot to get through and we did it in a timely manner. We'll see you next month at the Assiniboia Community Committee. Take care.
Dobson moving adjourned?
you bet.
Sure.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.